Good evening, namaste, and a very convivial welcome to all our dignitaries and delegates of our today's webinar, ABCD of Technology by Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, ICAI, and SACA Committee on Information Technology. Let's go invent tomorrow instead of worrying about what happened yesterday. With this fantastic thought, I, CHR Nisha, am extremely overwhelmed to get this opportunity to moderate this webinar. Atithi Devo Bhava means be one for whom the guest is God, is truly practiced in India. So I take the privilege to welcome each and every panelist and the delegates for today's webinar. With technology, we can achieve the unimaginable. Technology by itself doesn't make good leaders. Technology only amplifies true leadership. So welcoming a true leader and also Chairman, Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, CS Nanda, Central Council member of ICAI from 2004-2016, 2019 to 2022, and also a Chairman of Internal Audit Standard Board, ICI, and Committee on Information Technology of South Asian Federation of Accountants. He is also Vice Chairman of Banking, Financial Services and Insurance Committee, and he has held various positions of Chairman, Vice Chairman during his council tenure in various committees. He is also a member of Quality Review Board set up by Government of India and also a member of SEBI Advisory Committee. He is a member of SAFA on Committee of Professional Accountants in Business and Committee on Improvement in Transparency and Accountability and Governance. He was a chairman of NIRC of Institute of Chartered Accountant in 2002-2003 and also has contributed as a guest faculty and program coordinator at various seminars and conferences organized by national and international bodies of ICAI. With this brief introduction, I welcome you, sir, and over to you.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Chairman of SAFA, Mr. Bhandara, Vice Chairman SAFA and past President ICI, my elder brother C. Nihar Jambu Saria. I can see Mr. Narsimhan Alangov, the Speaker of the Day, Mr. C. Amish Thakkar, Madam Charmi Shah, who is the Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Amit Gupta, the Secretary to this committee, to the board, and all. It is really a unique pleasure to welcome you all to this very well-crafted, very well-coined, designed program on ABCD of technology. I am sorry I am in Hyderabad and maybe certain noises are coming, but I'll try to be brief so that we're able to listen to the speakers and to the honorable guests who have come from Sri Lanka and from Mumbai. Ladies and gentlemen, ABCD of technology. A stands for Artificial Intelligence, which is like a very important topic. And more importantly, professionals need to use that to create value and worth in their professional endeavors. B stands for blockchain technology. So without blockchain, things can't be taken into the right stride. C stands for cyber security. You are all aware that the networks have become vulnerable and hacking of such websites and such security systems have been very common. Therefore, cyber security, again, is a very important topic which we need to discuss. And the fourth is data analytics. Yes, as professionals, we look at the data, analyze the data, and give it to the management, to the audit committee, to the board, as the case may be. We have two of the very revered speakers, Mr. Narsimhan and Mr. Amish Thakkar, who would take things to the logical conclusion. So not taking much of your time, I would give the dais back to Charmi for further proceedings. Charmi, the dais is all yours.
Thank you, sir, for organizing such fabulous topic, which says that humans are the reproductive organs of the technology. So moving on to our next segment, we have with us C.A. Nihar Jambu Surya, who was the president of ICI in 2021-22. He is a vice president of SAFA and also a member of professional. He also a member of Accountants in Business, Advisory Group of International Federation of Accountants, and was a member of very important committee constituted by government and regulators relating to policy formation that include Government Accounting Standard Advisory Board and Audit Advisory Board, both constituted by CAG of India. He was also a board member, Insurance Regulatory Development Authority, Insurance Advisory Committee, and Apex Committee of IRDA, and a member of SEBI's Primary Market Advisory Committee. He was also a member of E-Commerce Committee formed by Ministry of Finance and Peer Review Committee of Central Board of Direct Tax. He is a prolific speaker at national and international fora. He has also addressed more than 900 seminars on various different topics. So with this brief introduction, I request Nihar sir to share his insights. Over to you.
Thank you, Charmi. Good evening, everybody. President Hinaike Bandaraji, the SAFA President, Chairman of Information Technology Committee, CA Charanjot Singh Nandaji, today's speakers, Mr. Narsiman, Mr. Amish Thakkar, Secretary to this committee, CA Amit Gupta, and all the participants. I think let me acknowledge and appreciate that during this year, Nandaji has put Information Technology Committee of SAFA on fire by organizing programs one after the other without being tired by anything. Just very recently, last week itself, we had World Congress of Accountants, and we were all busy with that. But still, you did not want to relax, and you went on with the programs for the benefit of SAFA members. I must also thank President SAFA for sanctioning this series of webinars for the benefit of members. And today, by having this topic of ABCD of technology, I think you will apprise members of everything regarding information technology. How important is to learn all these technologies. People were afraid at one point of time that technology will take away many of our jobs. But the history shows us, and is the proof, that when computers were introduced, when technologies were introduced, the professionals became more powerful. Only what we need to do is know this technology, learn it properly, and human mind cannot be replaced by technology. Only our decision making will be speeded up. Data analytics will generate such reports which we badly require. And those reports which we were preparing manually, now when computer generates in a fraction of seconds, all these reports will be very useful in guiding the clients and dealing with their matters. And particularly today, you are covering cyber security also, along with AI and data analytics, which is very important, because if somebody hacks your data, you would be in trouble. So how to secure data which is seamlessly traveling so fast with the facility of 5G, and now the world is talking about even 6G. So let us learn from the experts as to how to use technology to our advantage and how to protect our data and clients from any cyber attacks from anybody. So with this, I once again congratulate the chairman of the committee for organizing all these webinars for the benefit of SAFA members. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Vice President Sir and President ICA. Thank you so much for your kind words.
Thank you. Pleasure.
We all have days where we need extra motivation. Today, Sir has given our part of extra dose. Hearty gratitude to enlighten our delegates with your vision, Sir. Thank you, Sir. Going on to the next segment, it is said that the great grounding engine of change is technology. And to throw more light on this, we have with us none other than President of SAFA, Mr. H.M. Hinaike Bandara. A profusely overjoyed to take the opportunity to welcome to you, where people all over the world are very keen to listen to your words. But before that, I would formally introduce you. He is the President SAFA, FCMA, FCA, He is also a banker, chartered accountant in the incumbent president of SAFA and past president of Association of Accounting Technicians of Sri Lanka. He is president of Association of Professional Bankers Sri Lanka, council member of CA Sri Lanka. He was a general manager, CEO of National Saving Bank, chairman NatWealth Security Limited, director World Saving Bank Institute representing Asia Pacific region and Institute of Bankers of Sri Lanka. He is a recipient of ABP Sri Lanka President Award for the outstanding services to banking industry and CMA Sri Lanka Award for excellence in business management. He was also a member of expert group appointed by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka based on cabinet decision on the implementation of the stimulus package for banking, finance and leasing industry. So with this brief introduction, I request Bandara sir to take over the session.
Good evening to all of you. Thank you, Charmi, for the kind introduction. CA Jambusare, Vice President SAPA, and past President ICA India. CS Nanda, Chairman SAPA Committee on Information Technology and Digital Accounting and Assurance Board of ICA India. Eminent speakers, moderator, participants, and ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, let me thank the Chairman, SAPA Committee on Information Technology for organizing this webinar on ABCD of technology and inviting me to address you all. And more importantly, the way the webinar has been branded. You may wonder as to why they have mentioned ABCD. Even when I went through the brochure, I was wondering what is ABCD. Later on, I realized the exact meaning of ABCD. So wonderful job. I also would like to appreciate the support extended by Vice President SAPA and President ICA India to organize this awareness session for the benefit of the accounting fraternity in the South Asian region. Ladies and gentlemen, emerging technologies and digitalization are reshaping business models, finance, and accounting practices. At the same time, digital technologies are generating mountains of data, providing organizations with potential to better manage risk, seize new opportunities, and improve insights. In that context, technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, cybersecurity, and data analytics will be very useful to accounting professionals in carrying out their responsibilities in the business environment. For example, blockchain increases trust, security, and the traceability of data shared across a business network. Cybersecurity is crucial because it safeguards all type of data against theft and loss. And artificial intelligence is widely used to provide personalized recommendations to people. I'm sure that the speakers and panelists, the subject experts, will discuss in detail all these areas. I'm happy to mention that most member bodies of SAPA have undertaken several programs in all these areas to educate the members. At the same time, IFAC also encourages professional accountancy organizations to ensure their members have access to relevant high-quality continuing education and certification programs. Therefore, the webinar organized by the Digital Accounting and Assurance Board of the ICA India will be beneficial not only to the members of ICA India, but for the entire South Asian region. So with those remarks, let me thank once again the chairman and the organizing committee for inviting me, and I wish the webinar all success. Thank you. Over to you, Samuel.
Thanks a lot, Bandara sir, for your kind words. We are honored, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome.
A life is too short to remove USB safely. So thank you for apprising our audience briefly so that they at least have the crux of the topic beforehand and explain that technology is a useful servant but a dangerous master. Thank you, sir, for helping and knowing our audience that once a technology rolls over, if you are not a part of the steamroller, you should be a part of the rule. Thank you so much, sir. So today our participants are very eager to attend this session where they will get the knowledge of technology by our distinguished speaker who have a very nice hold of the topic. Our next speaker is CA Narsimham Ellie Wogan to throw light on this topic. To briefly introduce him, he is a BCom, FCA, CS, DISA, Diploma in IFR UK, CISA USA, LLB. He is a partner of Ken and Company and Senior Advisor Digital Security Services in Cron Advisory Services India, LLB. He is a futuristic and a GRC professional and a keynote speaker. His area of practice include data analysis, risk-based audit, privacy impact assessment, internal audit, information system assurance, internal financial controls, and SOC compliance and SOC audits. He is a faculty for DISA, CISA, and course on blockchain technology, and he has authored more than 4 books for ICI, KSCAA, etc. on technology. He is a regular speaker on technology at various national and international conferences of ICI, CII, FICCI, etc. So he has often addressed the SACA international conferences at Asia, Europe, Africa, North America, and often amongst the top-rated and youngest speaker. With this, I also have to add that he has been identified as one of the top 10 influential consulting leaders 2020 and annual recognition for torchbearers in consulting sphere by CEO Insights magazine. With this brief introduction, I invite you, sir, and over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Will you please confirm if my screen is visible and it's clear?
Very much, very much. Please go ahead.
Clear. Thank you. Thank you. Respected dignitaries, Mr. Hinaike Bandara, the President of SAFA, the Vice President of SAFA Niyar Jambusia, Charanjot Singh ji, and my fellow colleagues who are listening through this conversation. Today's terms, things have changed so dramatically that you will not realize that there are certain technologies getting embedded within us without even realizing the fact that we are using them. A simplest use case which I can probably bring in the interest, to get started. Most of us are using these technologies so very embedded that gone are the days we say, hey, I need to use a keyboard to type. I am rather going to use a voice to type. If you ask the latest youngsters, the millennials, I've seen most of them talking to their phone, even though they're talking it this way and not over the ear. And when I was surprised, I casually asked them, what are you doing? Are you using a walkie-talkie? He said, no, I am dictating the text and my mobile will convert that text into whatever required. Perhaps the future could be, hey, accounting software, just like you say, hey, Google, hey, accounting software, whatever it may be, can you pass these entries and just narrate the transactions and system is going to pass the entries. While for kids at college, it might be very fascinating to pass their exam. The reality for us as professionals is multifold. The way this AI and blockchain are entering into the profession, of course, I will stick on to these two technologies, is something which is worth mentioning and worth spending time into, right? So with that in the context, without much of delay, I thought, let me head into the subject. A quick brief about me, I think in which case it was introduced. A general disclaimer, the views are of mine, not of my organization, Ken and Co. So I thought I'll take you through a few things. First, what do we see in this changing times? What are the things which are drastically changing? And how is that having an impact? Then obviously we'll spend some time to understand what is AI. We have heard a lot about AI, right? And we know today kids also speak about AI. In fact, I keep telling, when my parents were kids, they used to learn ABCD as apple, B for ball, C for cat. Perhaps when I grew up, I learned A for Apple phone, B for Bluetooth, right? And C for maybe, some other fancy designation. But my kid today will rather learn ABCD quite different, right? A for artificial intelligence, B for blockchain, C for cybersecurity, cloud computing, D for analytics, data, whatnot. And that is basically how we need to foresee the future. And that's where we stand, right? So we look into changing times, head quickly into what exactly is AI, understand what is the impact it has on accounting, and maybe how we can use these technologies in our office, right? I'll spend a little longer on AI considering the fact that it is compared to blockchain, it has made fairly greater advancements. And then not to forget an interesting technology, which often people are misled thinking that, hey, blockchain is all about Bitcoins. That's not the case, right? And of course, we've seen Bitcoin prices falling drastically, right? But anyways, we'll not bring that into the conversation. But blockchain, how is it? And how does it impact into our accounting system? Some concepts and variants, and probably some take-home message for you as professionals. Now, if you look into the interesting survey by the World Economic Forum, the Future of Jobs Survey 2020, it gives very interesting and probably in one way futuristic and the other way a little painful insights. It says there are many jobs which today we are noticing having increasing demand, and there are very many jobs which are decreasing in demand. Which means when we have this sort of a variation, it always makes sense for us to understand where the future is heading into. Unfortunately, decreasing in demand, amongst the top 5 or top 10, I find our profession standing. It could be the role of data entry clerks, it could be the rate of accounting, bookkeeping, or perhaps even accountants and auditors. That means the demand for these professionals are reducing. But see what is happening on the other side. We are noticing increase in demand in analysts. We're talking about AI machine learning specialists, digital marketing, process automation. Hey, so many new things are coming. But does that mean that I completely stop my accounting practice and jump into these technology elements? Perhaps not. What I should probably think, or what you should probably sense, is that these are the rules in the same fashion. If you continue to be doing it, it would perhaps have a gradual role decrease. And that is where it makes a lot of sense for us to understand where these technologies are heading. Right? So let's quickly see how this industry has evolved. What started off as industry 1.0, which is typically, mechanization, steam power, weaving loom, right? That was considered as a massive invention at that point in time. But then came the era of 2.0, where people started speaking of mass production, assembly line, electrical energy. And let me tell you, this itself was something mammoth. A classical example is, in the Ford manufacturing plant, right? One of the biggest change which took place in the industry 2.0 was people standing at the same place and machines taking a product at a particular stage and you assembling it and it moving ahead. Simple, called as assembly lines. I'm sure you have seen in those funny Charlie Chaplin movies or, comics as such. But this triggered what is called as, gave way to the industry 3.0, where computers and systems have actually come in. And that's not sufficient. Today, we're talking about industry 4.0, where we're talking about cyber physical systems, Internet of Things, IoT devices, and all of these are getting interconnected. And that's the reality, my dear friends. So when I say industry 4.0, what am I talking about? We're talking about autonomous robots. Those of you who had been part of the World Congress of Accountants perhaps would have noticed that, there were robots to welcome the delegates. And you would also find that robots are now being used reasonably in most of the places, right? And these robots need not always be a physical robot. It could also be a digital robot, which we call it in a software parlance called as a bot, which is basically a software solution which helps you to automate processes. We're talking about virtual reality simulations. We're talking about extensive system integrations, right? So we're talking about the newer things which is taking place. On the other side, A very interesting concept called as IoT is coming up, where devices are going to speak with each other. Perhaps when you're leaving from your office, right, you can send a message to your home or your air conditioner or even your oven saying that, hey, cool down the air conditioner at this temperature. Keep the oven at this temperature, and probably your drink may be kept at a chilled temperature at so and so. You can send a message, and all of this is set, right? But look, from an accounting parlance as well, these are all having use cases, which I'm going to bring it up a little later. We're talking about big data, analyzing huge chunks of data characterized by volume, variety, velocity, right? My co-speaker is also going to touch upon that, so I'll probably rest my case into this. We are also talking about very, very interesting things called augmented reality. Additive manufacturing, a very, very interesting thing. Additive manufacturing is basically what in layman's language called as 3D printing. Today, you could print body parts. You heard it right. You could print body parts. Forget about that. You could print the inner sole of your shoe. You might be wondering, how is it even relevant? I'm sure all of you, when you buy your shoe, it could be a Nike, Puma, whatever it is, or even a smaller brand. The first thing which most of you do is when you wear and try it, one of your shoe finds it, one of the leg finds it very comfortable, the other may not be. Maybe the left is more comfortable or the right more comfortable, whatever. The reason and the reality is your left and the right foot are not made exactly the same, and that's God's creation. And what do? When you fit in a shoe which fits both the legs on the similar fashion, there is obviously a challenge. So what do I do for that? Nike came up with an interesting concept and said, hey, you buy the shoe, I will custom fit your foot into it. How is it? They take your foot measurements. In the store, they do a 3D printing of the inner sole, and there you go. Your foot fits in perfectly and you're more comfortable. And we're talking about technologies like this, right? And we're talking about being connected everywhere. Today, we are able to speak with each other thanks to the cloud computing technology. A lot of these SaaS applications and whatnot. And not to forget the element of cybersecurity, which acts as a shield to protect all of this. And this is how the Industry 4.0 is evolving. If you probably look into a factory today, right? These are the components of a factory, and you would notice that a factory of the future is perhaps characterized like this. You have bots or robotic arms which are actually doing certain things. You have additive manufacturing. You have autonomous vehicles. You have 3D printing devices, additive manufacturing. You have sensors, or what is called as IoT. You have the cloud, which is sort of absorbing all of this data and analyzing it. Cybersecurity to protect it. And you're talking about sustainable energy through green energy. Lot of interesting things. And mind you, this is not going to be a click of a transition as much as Thanos did it in the movie, right? Avengers, right? It's not going to be that fast. It is going to gradually happen, but without even you realizing it. I'll just talk about a couple of realities which you would have realized by now. Today, even if you have to go to the same location where you often go, it could be even between your office and home, you always check onto your Google Maps before you start your commute. Why? The reason is because you know that I get an accurate prediction, or at least reasonably accurate, as to the time. So therefore, you might probably decide to leave at 4 or 7 instead of leaving at the 5 to 6 peak time, right? And that's exactly how these technologies we're using it today. Let's talk about another use case. The Alexas and the smart assistants which we're using in our homes. Or the moment you get into your car, the first thing which you do today is probably, your car is able to sense or understand what you want through, you're able to give voice messages, you're able to give commands, and that's where we are heading into. And these are two classical examples of transformation, I would probably call it. What we saw as a horse cart moved into a train, we moved into an automobile, we spoke about the airplane, we spoke of ride sharing. Interesting, never have we thought, before Uber or any of these companies came up with it. And then today we speak about autonomous cars. You know what is future? Maybe a heli taxi. Look on the payment side. We start off with barter, physical currency, fiat money, credit card, digital payment, digital currency. And today we talk about BNPL, buy now, pay later. And that's predicted to be a huge, massive market. In fact, what technology has done is change the way in which everything is run. The fundamental remains the same, but the way in which technology is being used to solve a problem is magnificent. A use case could be, you going to a hotel and ordering vis-a-vis, you going to an app, selecting variety of options and choosing what you want to eat. So therefore, that brings me to the core or the most important thing today. What is AI all about, right? What are we speaking of? And this is a funny image which actually hits our mind, the reality, the hard reality. Humans are hooked today and machines are learning. You heard it right. Humans are hooked today and machines are learning. And when you say machines are learning, they're reading and understanding from you. A simplest example is your search engine is able to give you customized ads on an ongoing basis based on your preferences. Your LinkedIn or a social media feed is not exactly as what your fellow colleague or your family member would probably seeing and receiving it. And these are all driven through machines, which is able to analyze your patterns. Likewise, these machines, when deployed in accounting and audit, may perhaps be able to analyze patterns which probably you never were aware of. And that's where the reality is. We'll speak about those use cases. So AI in a layman's language is something that can simulate a human capability. It can just replicate a human capability. So if a human is able to take a decision, hey, if from this location to that location, I know this road is traffic prone, I will take this. Today, machines are taking that decision. Which means those which are repetitive, those which you feel that, can be delegated today are slowly moving into the machines so that you could make much more intelligent and valuable decisions. Our times are crunched and we all have still the same 24 hours in a day. And therefore, technologies such as this can help you to make things better. The task of getting computers and machines to do these intelligent tasks is all about AI. So it can simulate human capabilities, and it could include areas as simple as speech recognition, which all of us have heard of, right? And I'm not sure how many of them are aware. The speech recognition, no doubt you've been using in your mobile phone, you can start using in our own offices. A classical example, don't type an email, go ahead and dictate it. I do it. Of course, not every time, because I cannot keep on talking all the time, right? And of course, there is a lot of background noise and other aspects. But I do it, I give it a try. So speech recognition is a classical case. Second, it has ability to learn and suggest certain things. For example, if it is seeing that you have a flight at probably, let's say, 5 p.m. local time, whichever country you're attending from, right? And we all know that 5 p.m. is traffic prone because people are going back to their homes from office. It will give you an alert maybe at 3 or 4 o'clock saying, hey, you have a flight at so-and-so time. Would you want to start now? Google is doing it. So it is learning. It is helping you to plan. Perhaps it's even solving problems. And that's where AI is heading in today. And therefore, we now move to the next part of it where we understand this AI is now a broad spectrum of which machine learning is one component. And what exactly is machine learning? It is the ability of the machine to learn, acquire, and apply those skills. A simple example, as I was telling you, the social media feeds which you get, or the YouTube recommendations, or forget that, the Netflix recommendations. Netflix uses AI to an extent which you perhaps could not even have imagined, right? So these cognitive systems have the potential to lead interactions. Today, most of the customer service agents are converted into chatbots, and by understanding your conversation, they decide whom I need to raise it and how a problem can be solved. because most of the conversations with a customer care executive are repeated in nature. Let's take an example of your telecom bill. You want to check what is your plan, you want to check what is your tariff, your standard questions. If I aggregate all of them using a big data model, I realize that maybe 20 to 30 questions are the most standard questions. So why do I require a human being to solve them? I can rather use a AI program to solve it. And that's where we are heading into, right? Let's probably flip it from an accounting perspective. If you analyze loads of information with respect to an accounting profession, the transactions will give some sort of a common nature. An example could be you have made a payment without deduction of tax or withholding. And if this is based on a particular threshold, it gives an alert saying that, hey, I think this transaction requires a withholding of tax. Why are you not doing it? Likewise, the VAT or the GST requirement, right? You could have multiple use cases on similar things. So if you look into the traditional system, you give the data and the program as an input. The computer processed it and gave you the output. But come AI, your data and output is given, the computer creates the program. The computer creates the program, and that's where we are heading it. That's where I say these are exciting types, right? So one might ask, hey, all of these are fine. Where do I use AI today? And this is the slide which gives you a gist of it, right? Typically, this is used in three broad buckets: data, processing, action. Analyzing the data itself is a massive task, and that's where AI is being used today. A simple example: detecting a face or detecting an object. I'll give you a very interesting use case. An Indian food delivery company had to mandatorily enforce wearing of mask by all the delivery executives. It is obviously different, and this was during the pandemic time, the peak of the pandemic, because the government permitted the food delivery apps, and this is not just in India, in most of the countries, they permitted the food delivery apps to operate, and therefore delivery executives were asked to go from here to there. But obviously the user was concerned whether my delivery executive is wearing a mask, is that food safe, and whatnot. And what was the action item? They came up with a simple technology in that food delivery partner's mobile phone, which on a periodical intervals would take snippets of that person's face and identify if the nose to the chin was covered or not. And that's an example of a machine vision. Forget that. The webinar today is being broadcasted from my end using a software called a Zoom. Of course, you might be seeing on a web interface. Every time I move my hand, the brightness onto my face changes because Zoom realizes that, hey, there is some sort of an object which is coming in between. I need to enhance the brightness or reduce it, right? You could probably see it yourself when I move my hand slowly that, things will slightly change in terms of the background effects, right? So that's an example of a machine vision. Then comes speech recognition, which most of us use. Natural language processing is understanding the intent rather than just the pronunciation. Because many times I make a sentence, right? If I simply dictated that sentence, one could interpret the word in 2 or 3 different manners. Whereas by understanding the NLP, you understand the intent based on the dictation, and then the text automatically comes, right? And that is where we are heading into, right? So these are, using of these synonyms, of words which have a similar spelling and what. Come to the second bucket. AI is used in the element of processing. How? It could construct a graph for you, a prediction model. Okay, the stock price fluctuated in this fashion based on certain macroeconomic indicators. Now, if there is a new indicator, what could be the prediction? Learning from data. A simple example is driving of a car, right? So based on the past experience, the way it is driven, I'm able to understand how to drive the car better. Planning and exploring agents. A classical example could be, exploring minerals, exploring through a drone technology and whatnot. And the third bucket is action. You're generating an image, right? Modifying faces or a speech generation. It is responding. Handling an object. That's one of the most complicated things. Picking an object, right? Because how can a system pick up an object exactly the way it should be picked up? Because as a human being, you know, if you have to pick up an object, right? You know where to hold the object and pick it up. In fact, you can relate AI to a newborn child. How does a child learn these things? Over a point in time. Because the first thing which the child has to get is grip over its body and the neck. And then it will slowly start holding objects. Right? And that's where your gross motor skills, fine motor skills of the children come out. Right? So handling of the objects, navigation and movement, all of these are actions, right? You're seeing your car is driving, it realizes there is an object there, it navigates and goes across and things like this. So we spoke about AI, we spoke about machine learning, and the other topic which will probably, I just give an intro because this is just a conceptual seminar, of course, with use cases. I'll not go into each of these scenarios. The concept of deep learning. Now, deep learning is the next level of machine learning, or rather, the next level. Now, what deep learning does is it is composed of so many algorithms that permit the software to perform certain tasks, speech, image recognition, whatever, right? As a result of which, it is able to better analyze and take action. And it is called as a neural network, much like our human body. A simple example could be, we notice a human body notices that there is a fire somewhere close by. Within few seconds, your eyes might have noticed it or your hand would have faced the heat. You immediately tend to come back because there are millions of neurons which gives you that indication. Now imagine a car which is going this way and it has sensed, hey, there is some sort of a fire. So it should either give an alert to the driver or it should perhaps stop. Right? And that's where we talk about deep learning. This was got multiple types of supervised, unsupervised, etc. Again, those are topics for another day's discussion. So if you look into business today, AI is broadly used in these 5 domains. And you think of any use case, it will fit into this. The first use case is understanding, grouping, categorizing, right? It could be understanding transaction, understanding user behavior. For example, Netflix or Amazon Prime understands the behavior, what you're using, and giving you a recommendation, right? That's an understanding. Then we're speaking about automating, sending an auto trigger, sending an AdWord, sending a link. Hey, if you watch this, you may probably even like this. Or users who bought a mobile phone also bought an earphone or a portable charger or something on those lines. The third could be detecting, identifying patterns, knowing unknown, discovering certain things in the space. The fourth could be personalizing, giving certain personalized recommendations, giving certain personalized, because today, if you look into it, the reason why digital media is so much more expensive than that of your print media is because of this personalization. If you see a newspaper ad, I do not know whom the audience I'm intending to reach. I advertise it for everybody, but not all 5 fingers are the same. Because a person who is interested in music or is searched in the last 1 week, where do I have a piano class near me, is more interested in a Udemy's learn guitar classes than a person who was just searching a guitar on Amazon. You're understanding the differences, right? So that bit of personalization is brought in. Many times you get an advertisement or a message from your Uber or your ride sharing app or your food delivery app saying, hey, it's been much longer, so long that you ordered a food or you took a ride with us. The next 3 rides we are giving you a cashback or a discount and whatnot. Personalizing. We're talking about predicting, a model to predict. How are we actually sensing? Right? So these are all the use cases of AI in application in business, and this can be used extensively in accounting and audit itself. Understanding the transaction based on the narration or the description in the bank statement. Understanding by analyzing this underlying bank statements or financial items. What are we speaking of? Where is the risk? Doing grouping of that, automating those analysis, detecting patterns, right? Giving personalized suggestions and recommendations for different clients, and perhaps predicting about the repayment schedule, going concern capability, and whatnot. There are a lot of things which can happen. And I think we spoke about this, the technology trends, and we are in the era which I call it as the intelligent technologies, right? The era of AI. This is a classical use case of AI coupled with analytics, which I thought I'll give you a heads up. This will open your mind in terms of where we are actually heading into. This image which you see, the first image, is a Google Maps screenshot. Now, there was a situation where a fintech company wanted to lend loans in a village where perhaps it didn't have too many people covered in the organized banking sector. So what is it that I can do? One of the ways which you could probably consider is, can I go there and do analysis about it, about the people? So I send a team of people and I realize that most of them don't even have a requirement to take a loan. And most of them have never taken a loan. So if I've never taken a loan, how do I know the credit history of a person? And today, I think most of you are aware that a loan or borrowing is done based on a credit history. So therefore, it's a big question mark. So now, if I have to give a credit rating for this particular people in this village, how do I do it? And therefore, they said that let's drop this proposal. But there was an interesting thought process which this company deployed. They said, let's calculate what is called as a prosperity index. So people ask, hey, what is prosperity index? Let's take a snippet of that village on Google Map and convert that Google Map data into interesting points. If that village had good roads, good schools, playgrounds, hospitals, cultivated lands, that means the village is reasonably prosper and therefore the possibility of default is less. Let's go ahead and give loans there. Right? So this is a model which they came up. And obviously using this, can they analyze the entire world? It is not possible, but they can definitely get started with certain parameters. And this is where we say data is there everywhere. How you convert that into intelligence is what AI can do for you. When it comes to AI, there are multiple streams. And I think we've given an introduction about, or conceptual way of most of this, and therefore I don't want to spend too much time into it. But this chart is just to give an extension or how deep each of these technologies are heading into. I'll give you one more simple use case, which is my personal favorite. Right? You're traveling to a country where the language is not, primary language is not English or something which you do not know. You can simply use Google Translate, take an image against that, and within few seconds, you have the answer in the language which you want. And that's the reality. And I've survived many country travels by just using that. Right? I like traveling alone, and therefore I realized that when I have to reach a particular location, I had to travel, and what better way than to use a Google Translate, right? Now comes a very interesting question. Are there platforms or softwares in AI? Hang on. Today, every software itself is inbuilt with an AI. A simple example of your mobile phone, it has inbuilt AI. Your laptops today, if you look into HP, Dell, or any of these larger players' websites, you will notice they have inbuilt AI technologies. Microsoft has inbuilt AI. It analyzes your emails and give you insights. Right? Personalization. Those of you using an Office 365 email, you would have got some insights on every day or every alternate day, things like that. You have a follow-up, you have a meeting, this is the time you can plan your calendar. So many interesting insights, right? Your search engines have again enabled AI. So these are all invariably using AI. But if you want to develop solutions with an AI inbuilt. These are a few examples of the platforms which are there. IBM has got Watson Analytics, one of the very, very powerful AI enabled engine. In fact, it was told that Watson has got power to be even more accurate than what an advocate or a barrister could be in US, right? And the possibility of a Watson winning a case is much higher than a human being. That's what is one of the ideologies or theories, right? Anyways, we'll not go too much into it. Google uses a mechanism called DeepMind or TensorFlow. Microsoft uses Cognitive. AWS is Amazon. Facebook again has this. And these are just evolving every day. Not to forget the chatbot. I think I gave you an example of a chatbot: speech recognition, voice recognition, voice powered interface, and all of these are interesting use cases which we are seeing. Things are not complete until we understand the advantages or the merits and disadvantages, the demerits. A typical advantages could be a lot of these repetitive jobs are automated. Your AI takes care of it. So therefore, error reduction, difficult areas you're able to identify, your daily applications are possible, your digital assistants, right? Repetitive jobs I spoke of, and interestingly, AI does not take a break saying I want a holiday, right? But look at the flip side. Cost is high. It is still evolving. It is still evolving. And companies are spending so much into that research. Especially AI in medical field is something which is massive. And perhaps in future, you will have robots assisted operations where of course doctors are going to be there, but the machines are going to help interpret decisions much faster. So therefore, the low-level jobs such as radiology, scanning, understanding of those, perhaps the machine may be able to do it better. It may not be possible to replicate humans. So therefore, do not forget that, hey, AI will take over me. I don't see that happening, right? Of course, there may be a possibility in a sci-fi movie where, things happen, but I don't think that may be the reality. Your user experience may perhaps not be impressed. AI may not be able to understand that because AI is not creative, right? AI by default is not creative because AI is as intelligent as the creator who did it. It may not go beyond. Of course, we're talking about unemployment, but I think you get into a positive side. There are a lot more newer jobs which will get created with AI coming into, right? I'll give you one simple use case. I attended the World Congress of Accountants, and obviously we met so many people, exchange cards, conversations. I did take a snip of a few of the members, right? I just took a card of them. So I had, let's say, about 20 cards with me because I met, let's say, 20 odd people. I obviously had to sit and write what their emails were and all those things. I didn't do any of that. What did I do? Took a photo of theirs, of their card, right? And downloaded an app which can do an optical character recognition scan, and it automatically saves my details into my mobile phone. Voila. How quick was that? Right? So these are what we are speaking of where technology can play into. But having said that, I still find so many issues because if the alphabet L in lowercase and capital I in uppercase looks the same. So if I had met a person whose name had I and L, my system used to save it in the way it interpreted. Right? So therefore, the role of human being is still relevant. That's just on the jovial note I want to make a mention. So let's spend some time into understand a few use cases, considering that we've got this basics clear. A simple example of a fraud detection. A service provider has great responsibility to protect their clients against fraudulent activities. Right? So the biggest importance over there is to protect their information and data. So it can be used to detect patterns, suspicious behaviors, fraudulent scenarios, right? Risk management. Traditional software which is based on creditworthiness or static information may not be sufficient. It can be probably you have to analyze with market trends. An example could be, right? I know your credit score is so and so, and therefore I want to give you a loan, but that is not sufficient. Top it up with additional data. He is working in the ABC industry. This industry is, let's say, real estate or software or hospitality, and this is impacted by COVID. right? And therefore, repayment potential for this person may probably be low, because tomorrow, if there is a lockdown 3, lockdown 4, lockdown 5, the entire sector is impacted. On the contrary, today it will be reverse. A fellow who's working in the hospitality sector will definitely have higher pay rise and more jobs. Why? Because there is so many number of people who want to travel today, and tourism is going to hit top revenues probably in the years to come, because everybody has been frustrated just staying back at home for more than a couple of years. Investment predictions. I think we spoke about it. Identify market changes, when up and down, when to invest. Customer service. Your chatbot, based on the messages which the customer is given, can probably send messages to soothe them down, right? Otherwise, you're so very frustrated and you're with anger, you send messages and you feel that, hey, what am I doing, right? So these are basically where these technologies come very, right? Some companies who have implemented, JP Morgan has implemented an application called Coin, which can use NLP and interpret contracts. Wells Fargo, through a Facebook Messenger, is provided KYC and passwords. Security in financial services company, they train the system so that they can analyze or assess fraudulent transactions or cyber threats at an early stage. Now let's take an example or a use case a little more deeper in a banking industry. Now let's take a scenario how a pattern recognition in AI works with respect to a banking industry. Now customer's salary hits his account, and within a few minutes or few hours, there's been multiple credits or debits. I mean, that may be the reality, right? Many times your salary hits in the next few days, all your EMIs, your credit card bills, and all of those, it goes off, right? I was reading a funny post saying that, my salary hits the account today, within 3 days, within 1 day or 2 days, all my payments are done. So somebody was asking, I'm not sure whether it's a bank account or a payment gateway where money comes and just moves. Anyways, on the lighter side, the reality is, when transactions hit your account and they are moving out, there is a pattern at which, or the ratio at which your accounts modify. But if there is a huge surge in one of these variants, your traditional method of analyzing of transaction may not be possible. Your machine learning may be able to help you, right? There's a huge number of deposits, huge number of withdrawals. It gives you an alert. Let's take another simple example. You use your credit card continuously for doing 3 or 4 transactions in foreign currency. Immediately, your credit card company will call you. Hey, did you do it? Are you sure you did it? Can I confirm? What is your name? What is your details? For security purposes and whatnot. Because what if somebody has taken your phone, somebody has taken your card and performing transactions, right? And this is typically how a query versus AI would operate. If you look into a scenario, or if the bank had given a rule that, my previous day balance and the closing balance of the current day, if they vary more than 500%, right, it is something suspicious. Whereas in this case, I got a salary of 45,000 rupees or $45,000, whatever your currency. And within a few days, all these payments happen. And within 1 day or 2 days, there's a huge fluctuation of even $5,000 or, 9 times or 900%. Right? The system will say, hey, this account is suspected fraud or there's something going wrong. Whereas in reality, it's a false positive, because that's how it happens. I receive the salary, within the next few days, all the payments take place. And therefore, AI engines will be able to get a better analysis. And this is a simple example where you can actually sense it. Where transactions are flowing on one side, you have the normality or the burst analyzers, which can analyze and give you alerts. So the first bucket, what you notice is a detection. The subsequent bucket, which you notice, is a fraud management, where things are moving and you're able to analyze. How do I analyze? Historical information. I profile you, right? The moment I profile you, I obviously need to know what are the things which is suspicious, and therefore the alerting system comes into play, and your case has to be investigated, and we see what is the next steps. Right? I think we are also speaking about a couple of problems, but I think we spoke about all of this. In the finance and accounting industry, predictive analytics, expense reporting, debt collection, right? Your compliance regulation, your FATCA compliance, fraud detection, underwriting of risk. These are all few examples where AI can be used, right? Quickly moving further, credit scorecard, your personal assistant, asset management, insurance policy, and probably the list will keep on going. Right? And where do I see this opportunities and challenges? What are the opportunities and challenges like? So in the near term, financial institutions can achieve substantial value by taking advantages of AI. It gives you competitive advantage. It can learn faster, operations are quicker, tailor-made products, omnipresent, new smarter decision making, new value propositions. So interesting times ahead, right? But what is the challenge? All this depends on data. So therefore, the first step is to ensure that data which you're capturing is adequate and accurate. So those who wants to get started with their AI journey, I think the first focus is your data clean and straight, right? You can start as a data streamlining as a parallel project in alongside of your AI journey. What are the operations which require AI? Right? It is not that, okay, hey, this operation is AI, done, remove. No, you need to understand the implications. The third, do you have the talent, especially in the financial space? Right? And this is something which I always advise to many friends and dear and dear ones. Hey, I understand you want to move in the technology space, but instead of starting afresh, start from scratch, whatever, why don't you partner with organizations? Why don't you take the expertise of senior members who are there in other organizations and couple it with yours? Let's say you are an accounting firm who's relatively new and there is already an existing accounting firm. Partner. Though those people, the senior members, have that experience and expertise, the junior members like you will have the strategy and direction, and you will probably say how where technology can be used, couple it with their experience, the results are amazing. And not to forget, regulations are increasing, right? So we're talking about regulations increasing. Countries like your Europe have regulations specific on AI, where you can use it and how you can probably deploy it. So what is the impact on from an accounting and auditing perspective? These are again interesting use cases. BDO, Deloitte, EY, the big fours, right? Most of them have some sort of an embedded AI solutions. And this is actually not just the big fours today, it is now downsizing and coming into smaller firms as well, right? You can use this extensively in risk assessment. I'll show you one live use case, how simple with the help of Excel you can actually analyze, right? You can look into providing advice, giving you insights, fraud investigations, right? The list can keep on going. And especially if you pick up fraud, you can use it for data mining, you can use it for expert analysis, you can use it for analyzing a neural system, and things like that. Are there AI-powered fintech companies? The answer is yes. These are a few examples which you can probably look into. Definitely a slide which was worth taking a clip, right? Of course, this was probably about 6 months back when I was doing some research. I took this. There could definitely be much more companies which have added into the plate too. Now let's look into for finance professionals. Are there AI-enabled tools for it? The answer is yes. These are a few accounting tools which are AI-enabled. BotKeeper, BotKeeper, right? Then you have Vic.ai, Smack. These are few companies who are AI-enabled accounting. We have the Make in India product called as Zoho, right? Where they have ZIA, Zoho AI engine or something they call it, Intelligent Assist, which basically is an AI-powered assist which can help you to do automated tasks. And they have an interesting suite of products, especially even on the accounting space, called as the Zoho Books, right? It talks about cloud accounting. It talks about contextual integration. It talks about connected banking, your OCR, AI ML enabled, voice interface, automation, and the list is huge. And this is essentially what these solutions are promising to, right? And that is what, my dear friends, you are going to be noticing in the days to come that, hey, I'm going to have interesting technologies, cloud-based technologies, which can probably automate the accounting and the transactions, right? These are a few examples which AI helps you to do it. Of course, coupled with a few standard features, automated reminders, payment gateway integrations, management of stock, auto scan. That's my personal favorite. Scan through the documents, automatically pass the entries, give you insightful reports, reviews, get instant reviews, and this list is endless. Coming to contract and legal space, here are a few companies which can help you, right? AI-enabled contract management tools. We're talking about Kira, Luminous, Loggeeks, eBrevia, right? These are few examples of solutions which are available. And probably, the mother of all, AI-powered data analytics solution called MindBridge, mindbridge.ai, right? It's basically one of the fairly large AI-enabled audit solution, which is one of the world's first, that's what they call it, but a fair bit of interesting use cases. It's a little like on the expensive side, but definitely has very interesting use cases using AI and accounting. So how do I adopt AI in my office, right? The simple thing which you can use is Microsoft Office. I'm not sure how many of them are aware, Microsoft PowerPoint has a feature called Design Ideas. You click on it, you type your slide, automatically the slide gets designed. 70 to 90% of my slides are designed automatically through AI, right? And I speak extensively, so this helps me so much. Excel has got two powerful functions. One is called as a flash fill, and the second is called as analyze or ideas, right? I'll speak about both of them by showing you something live, what better than understanding things live, right? So I'm talking about a data set onto my Excel spreadsheet, and I'm hoping you're able to see this, right? I have certain basic things like this which is available, right? Now, what do? I want to know which month this particular data stream is, right? And let's simply say I just recreate the sheet, right? I'm just going to create a duplicate sheet. Right? And I'm going to say, hey, I just want to know which month is this data, right? So I just type the word month and I type the word March here. I type the word August here, right? I do a control E. If it sees a pattern, it is able to do that automatically. Alternatively, what I can do is I can say, hey, 03, right? I can say 03, 08. Of course, I need to give a prefix. I need to give a prefix over here and I say, hey, can you do this for me for the rest of the period? And here it is automatically done for me. Look at this, automatically it's done all of this, right? And I can just analyze the data based on this, right? I can also choose, say for example, over here, I just want the chapter number. So I just say 3, I just say 5, I just say 8 and say control E, it automatically gives me all the chapter numbers. I can do a lot of analysis, right? Another example could be I have a consumption. What I showed you was flash fill. Another example could be I have some data like this and I say, hey, can you please analyze this data for me? And I tell Excel, please analyze this. And it gives me such wonderful analysis, which is there on the right hand side. It gives me consumption based on date. It shows that consumption has an interesting pattern, a pattern like this, which I would never have analyzed. Probably the way you could probably look into it is this is the data before COVID, and once COVID started, I noticed that there is a downfall, right? And again, I noticed that it touched the bottommost during the wave 1, and yes, things got slowly better. I was improvising, and then came unfortunately wave 2, and therefore my data again, my consumption or sales fell down, right? So these are interesting analytics which your data can do it, and not just that. It can analyze and give you patterns. For example, frequency of consumption. It tells you, hey, most of your data is within this interval of 0.48 to 0.448. Maybe as an auditor, you need to choose more samples in the first principle, lesser here, even lesser here, maybe 1 or 2 just here, and the maximum over here, right? So those are what we're speaking of. And not just that. You can query and ask questions about the data. For example, sort the chapter by total consumption in ascending order. Here it is. Okay, this is not sufficient. Go ahead and give me the percentage of total consumption in descending order or for each chapter. Or you could simply say month-wise consumption, right? And you could just enter and it gives you this data. Or you can just say bar chart, right? Here you go. You can simply say sort in ascending order, right? Here is the value. You could simply insert this, right? And you can simply go ahead and say, hey, insert a pivot or a chart for the data. It'll go ahead and insert it. And that's how quick these data sets are actually, my dear friends. And not just that, you could do a lot of these analysis, right? Even if you want, let's say, to check the share price of a particular company, let's say Apple, right? And you could just go ahead to the data set and say, give me the stock comparison, right? And it will give you some interesting insights about this entire thing, right? So it requires certain codes to be correctly mentioned, and you can actually analyze this and it can give you. Right, so it will ask you that, hey, I want, these are the codes, these are the countries, and if I mention all of those, it will actually get configured, right? So that way, my dear friends, this very Excel has got a lot of AI-enabled tools, and it makes a lot of sense of you explore that. Go back to Microsoft Word, it has features like dictation, read aloud, right? It has features like email reader. This can save a lot of your time. So your professional opportunities when it comes to AI are opportunity to automate and de-skill time-consuming job, minimize the burden, and see we as professionals possess the domain knowledge. Therefore, we have the experience to see how the relevant algorithms can be used better. And more importantly, the CFO of the future will need to know about technology as much as he knows about it. And that brings me to the end of the first topic, which I wanted to make a mention. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to take it before I jump into the next topic. Probably spend about 20 or 30 on this.
No, sir, we do not have any questions right now.
Thank you. So now that I think the understanding of AI, most of you have got it, right? I think it makes sense that we spend some time on the next technology which we can speak of. And that is blockchain, right? Now, this is unfortunately or fortunately a highly misinterpreted concept. Many of them presume that blockchain is nothing but Bitcoin, and Bitcoin, a lot of countries are having an aversion and therefore don't speak about it. No. Blockchain is a technology underlying your Bitcoin. As much as email is a use case of internet, Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is a use case of blockchain. That means blockchain can be used for several purposes, right? And that is what we're going to spend some time to understand. So how does blockchain work and what is it and why this concept came into picture? Let's spend some time to understand. See, in the world we live today, there is a huge element of trust deficit. I repeat, there is a huge element of trust deficit. Why do I say so? Because today, you do not know any transaction or any aspect, whether it is originally or whether it is genuine or it's a fake. And that is why people come and ask accountants like us or auditors like that, hey, can you audit it? Therefore, I know there is an element of true and fair. But is it practical that we audit everything in the world today? I don't think so. So what is it that we can do? They said, let's come up with a technology which has an inbuilt self-validation principle built. And that is where this blockchain technology came very handy. Forget about jargons. Let's take a simple example. 4 or 5 of your friends decided to go for a trip, whatever place. And you simply decided that, hey, let's do this. Let's do this. All 5 of us will split the expenses amongst all of us. So each of us incurs one expenditure, which your other 4 friends approve. And in order to do this, you created a WhatsApp group or a Telegram group or any of those groups. As and when you incurred some expense, you started posting, all your friends gave a thumbs up. Therefore, your transaction is approved. right? But blockchain is not so simple. I gave you the concept of blockchain with the simple example, where every transaction goes through a set of an approval process. In this case, all four of my friends had to approve a transaction. Every transaction goes through an approval process. Unless approved, the transaction cannot be committed or finalized, which means every transaction before pushing into the final system is already subject to an approval process, and that approval cannot be reversed or undone. I hope you got what I said, right? So there is a transaction. A transaction goes through a series of people or a persons. They give their consent or a clearance saying, hey, this is fine. And the moment this is done, it is pushed into a place which cannot be reversed. And if you want to reverse, you need to pass a fresh transaction, which all of them have to agree upon. Now, imagine every transaction happened like this, which got validated. I think the trust which anybody would place on that system is high. And that's exactly what blockchain does for you, right? So you have a transaction or a user request for a transaction. This transaction, it broadcasted to a set of people. In this case, my friends. In a blockchain world, we call this as P2P, peer-to-peer network, because all of these friends are not superior to anybody else. That means all these systems are on par with each other as much as a peer-to-peer. And the transaction has to be validated by each of them, or a rule which I could define, maybe 51% of them validated, 2/3 of them validated, whatever rule. And once that is validated, it gets written into what is called as a block. A block in a layman's language, you understand to be an encrypted message or an encrypted envelope, which has the transaction details. It has what is called as the hash details. What is hash? I'll come to it a little later. And it has a reference to the previous information, right? So these three are inside the block. And this block is added to a chain of blocks, which is already there, therefore blockchain, and the transaction is validated. Let me give a very simple example for you to understand this. You're auditing an automobile dealer and an automobile manufacturer. The biggest challenge between reconciling the automobile manufacturer and the dealer is that the ledger transactions between both of them. The automobile manufacturer says, hey, I have dispatched the following products, spare parts, cars. You are not saying that these have been received, or the balances are not reconciled. What? The large value items normally is easy to reconcile. The small value is where there is a difficulty. So what you say, hey, let's do a simple thing. Whatever has been pushed, only after you approve it, it will get into my system, or vice versa. Right? I have sent something, unless you approve it, it will not get into both our systems. So until then, it will be hanging in a particular ledger. The moment acceptance is given, it goes and sits into a ledger which cannot be modified at all. Will there be an issue or a challenge of reconciliation? I'm afraid not. Right? And that's exactly what we are speaking of, my dear friends. A technology which can do that. An example at a larger organization level scale, or even a government level scale, is that, the transactions, what is pushed into a GST website or the country's VAT website, where the credits, or what is called as the VAT credit or the GST credit, is given only if it is reflected in that portal. And what do? The simplest method is, every time a transaction is uploaded, you approve it, and therefore both of them, the transaction gets accounted. For you, you know how much to pay the government, and for the other fellow, he knows how much of a tax credit he will get it. As simple as that, right? So that's how basically the rule of blockchain works, right? We'll understand the finer nuances. So what is a hash? Hash in layman's language is an encrypted message. It's an encrypted message, right? So you convert one form of text into another form of text. Go back to school. We had this funny game where we used to play, where every alphabet you replace it by a number. So if you send a number called 321, it means you're sending the message CBA, right? Something on those lines. So that is a very, very basic level of encryption which your message will go through. You can have much more advanced version. So hash is generated by encrypting your message, and it stores in such a way that nobody other than the intended user can read it or view it, and therefore it's more secure. And only these hashes are stored in the box. So therefore, you know that even if anybody cut opens those boxes, literally, he cannot understand anything, right? So the first block will not have a previous hash, whereas the rest of them will have a subsequent hashes. So it'll have a hash and a reference to the previous hash. So this is an example of a cryptography setup. You have a block hash, you have the previous block. It obviously has a time stamp and the transaction. All of this are encrypted. So every block has this and has cross-referencing to the previous blocks. And this group of blocks is called as blockchain. And bear in mind, all of these transactions will be recorded in all those 4 or 5 peer-to-peer systems. That's where one of the challenge in a blockchain is. It is not very scalable because of this one reason. So every transaction gets recorded in 3 to 5 systems, right? Unfortunately, even if one system is not available, if the rule says all the 5 systems or all the 4 systems have to give a clearance, one system also is not available, the transaction will not go through the validation. So it has definitely some amount of challenges in a scalable scenario, right? We'll speak about the use cases a little more, right? What is an example of hash? Just on a lighter note, look at this. Look at these keywords, right? So if you are from an Indian context, I'm sure you would be able to recognize this very tasty food, which is called as dosa, which is basically, a version of a pancake, the Indian version of a pancake, right? So if I type the word dosa, D-O-S-A, you can look into the hash. And I just replace the D with a lowercase alphabet. You can see the hash completely changed. And I add some masala to it, or add some spices, whatever you can call it, the word changes again. And that's how unique hashes are, right? I hope you got the context what I'm trying to say, right? So in summary, blockchain uses these 5 fundamental mechanisms. The usage of hash is called as cryptography. It uses a peer-to-peer network, so there is no centralized player who can destroy the entire system, and you are bound by all the peer. There is a mechanism of giving consensus or giving a conformity. In my example, all the 4 or 5 friends. All of these are recorded in a ledger. So therefore, this ledger is linked to those blocks. And there are validation rules, which is given how this has to be updated, how this will take. And that's basically blockchain, right? So typically, if you look into the components of blockchain, there's a little bit of a technical view, but makes sense for you to get a visibility of it. The nodes, the keys. Apologies. Yeah, one side of it, you have what is called as the nodes, the key management, how the peer-to-peer technology works. The second is where you have your blockchain, which is where the chain of transactions operate. And on the extreme right, you have the distributed ledger and things like that, right? You could also have transactions which are recorded on the chain and off the chain. Example could be you sold a car. The most essential details about the car, maybe the engine number or the chassis number or some unique number for the car, along with the details of invoice may be recorded. The color code, the details which you feel is not relevant may not get recorded on the blockchain, right? Because otherwise, the more you record, the chain becomes more heavier, which becomes much more slower, right? So that's where you will have to understand. And underlying below all of this is the fundamental infrastructure, how the messaging is sent, how the encryption works, and what, right? So the components of blockchain, this is a little bit of a technical view, but this is fundamental, or this is necessary for you to get a sense of it. Now, this blockchain can be of 2 types, a public and a private. A system like a Bitcoin is a public blockchain. That means you don't require a permission. Anybody can be a part of it. And that's why there are people who mine the transactions. But today, what it is proven, especially after the recent unfortunate things, including the FTX episode, that a permissionless blockchain tomorrow could be dangerous because it results in not having a regulation, right? Or not having a control. Of course, the very concept of blockchain was we didn't want to have control, but we know that today, if somewhere some people can control more resources, it could be dangerous, right? So therefore, it came the era of private blockchain. And this is what we need to be worried about. This is what organizations such as yours and mine would implement, or we would be auditing. And that's normally a permissioned blockchain. I'll give you a use case of how interbank settlement can happen, right? So only authorized users can be a part of it. Please bear in mind, I am transferring funds from my account to your account. We need not be the persons who are authorizing the transaction. My bank and your bank will take care of it. But my transaction will go through this, and therefore faster settlement. And when I speak about my account to your account, you might say, hey, it's already happening today in 2 hours or 3 hours. But let's talk about cross-country transfers. Is it happening within 2 hours or 3 hours? Definitely. So I think we spoke about public and private. Public is open to everyone. Private is closed. Identity of public is anonymous, and this is the biggest challenge. And that's why today hackers ask you money in terms of crypto and other things. Whereas private is known. Access to public network is permissionless, therefore anybody can go. Private is permission, and we spoke of most of these, right? The concept of blockchain did not click so well or did not get so much of attraction unless this very fundamental concept called as a smart contract came into play. And this changed the entire landscape of blockchain. So what is a smart contract? As the name suggests, it's intelligent. There is an inbuilt smartness attached to it, right? If I have to put it in a layman's language, it is a self-executable contract. You heard it right? Self-executable contract. That means you have a transaction. Let's take a simple example. You rendered your audit services to your client, and obviously you need to invoice them. The auditee or your client takes about 1 week, 10 days, whatever. And obviously sometimes you never need to follow up and you get the money. Imagine a system where your auditee and you, the auditor, entered into a contract which is digitally signed and executed, where both of our banks are also part of the system. The moment the auditee accepts the audit report or gives a clearance, within 15 days from that date, the payment from his account automatically comes into my account. That's smart contract. That's smart contract. So it's a self-executable contract where there are conditions defined, and based on one set of completion, the second conditions get triggered. Right? You can have this on a public blockchain where people are anonymous, or you can have it on a private blockchain where people are available. And since it is backed by a blockchain, there is an element of trust. Therefore, there is no way you can undo or reverse a transaction. Right? Let's take another example or use case. I know I made an insurance claim, and the moment the insurance claim is sort of cleared by 2 or 3 people, it could be the police, it could be the surveyor, it could be the automobile evaluator or the mechanic. The moment all these 3 clearances are done, the payment automatically goes to my account or the automobile dealer's account. Therefore, there is no necessary for a cash settlement, right? So that's where smart contracts can operate good, right? What can it help you? It can help you in record storing. It can help you in trading, right? Your online trading today, your dematerialized transactions, your banking. So today you have the multiple players. You have a bank, you have a market intermediary, you have a stock exchange, you have a depository, so many players. And today, all of these transactions will take at least 2 or 3 days for your transaction or the securities to get settled. With this, it can happen instantly, right? So real estate, voting system, insurance claim, and the list is endless. So then that gives me an interesting perspective. Okay, all this is about blockchain. Where can I use it? There are 4 broad buckets which I think you can use it. The first bucket is smart contracts. especially where you have digital rights, wagers, escrow, all of those are where smart contracts can come into. In fact, today blockchain is evolving. Today we talk about use cases where multiple products are built on blockchain. A classical example is NFT, non-fungible token. In a layman's language, it is a digitized version of an original product, right? Let's say a painting or a music album, the original version. Now, what happens the moment you have a music album or a painting? Many pirated versions gets cleared. So now what do? You create a digital version, retain it in digital, and only he who has access to it has access to the resource. Great. But how do I know who all having access to it, or how do I know how many hands it has changed? Or I've created a music album, I've posted it in Spotify or YouTube. How do I get my royalty? Go based on smart contract. I can get to know how many of them have viewed it, how many of them have actually subscribed to it, how much time they've heard me, and based on that, am I getting my pro rata share of revenue? Right? Smart contracts can do that. Equity market, I think we spoke about it. Record keeping, the use cases are huge. Healthcare records. Today, most of the countries are speaking about digital health record transformation. In US, it's fairly at an advanced stage. In South Asian countries, many countries have started this practice. So healthcare records. Your title records. One of the most complicated thing today is to determine who is the legal owner of a land. Right? There are a lot of disputes surrounding it. So if you go through a blockchain-enabled system, there is no way that somebody can go ahead and say, question, hey, how did this property come to this person? There's an accurate trail. So your ownership is clearly proven, right? So you're voting IP and all of those. And on the digital currency, we speak about, a lot more things like peer-to-peer lending, microfinance, loan financing, etc. Right? So a simple use case where, blockchain technology enables conclusive verification without a trusted party. So there's a transaction between a company and a company B, and every transaction is sort of notarized or verified, and therefore both the companies can rely upon it. Auditors can use that, tax authorities can use it, banks can rely upon, courts can also rely upon this. But it will take time for them to mature. Right? From a record keeping perspective, right? You have an original record. That original record is converted to a hash string. We speak about that. And you're auditing the record. You are comparing that with the hash string to ensure that these things are matching. So that's where we are talking about these interesting technologies. And in this entire space, there are very interesting use cases which is coming up. And a person called as Oracle. Now, Oracle is a fellow who is outside the blockchain, but he has to validate something outside the blockchain and bring it into the blockchain. Hey, it's too confusing. Let's take an example. You have built a blockchain setup where your insurance contract is seamlessly getting settled. But let's say there was a road accident which required a police report, a first information report, or an investigation report. The police is not going to come into the blockchain because they have better things to do. And if you say, hey, log in into this portal and enter, he's not going to do it. The max the police will give you is a digitized version of the complaint. Now you appoint an agent who will go to the police station, take this document and upload it into the blockchain system. So a transaction which is outside the blockchain system, you want to bring it into the blockchain system, and therefore you require a guy called as Oracle who can further enhance the system. So therefore, you need not think that, oh, everybody in this world will come into the blockchain setup. No, you have people like Oracles who can do it, which is good as well as bad. Why? What if the Oracle turns bad? Your entire transactions are performed based on fake scenarios, right? So that is why you need to be a little cautious, and that becomes an audit opportunity for us as auditors. This is a simple example of how Oracles can be used. You have an underlying Ethereum or a Ripple or a Bitcoin setup. You have a lot of chains, a banking setup, a PayPal, an SAP or a Salesforce. There is an event transaction. There is a stock market transaction, and all these things are interrelated, and therefore Oracles come into your scene. So one example of a blockchain being used in a banking setup, because in the interest of time, I'll probably wrap up in a few slides. A blockchain, how it can transform banking. Your interbank transfer can be very quick. Your remittances will be way faster. Smart contract, right? Record storage. Many of the times you have to submit KYC records once in 2 years or 3 years with certain banks. Makes sense that you submit it one place, everywhere the banks share it. Your clearing settlement, your loan syndication, where multiple banks are providing you a loan, especially of high value transactions. You need not resubmit every transaction document again and again. Your regulatory reporting, right? Your trade finance, your security of data, all these things are few use cases where blockchain can be saved. In the banking space, are there people using it? Definitely yes. And they're using what is called as a consortium model in blockchain, where 4 to 5 consortiums are formed, and between the consortiums, the settlement happen instantly. If you notice, HSBC is one of the prominent players who's there at least in 3 or 4 of these consortiums, and he's actually making an interesting strides in this blockchain enabled space, right? So let's take an example that I have HSBC in Sri Lanka, and let's say I have Standard Chartered in, let's take a scenario of, China, or for that matter, Shanghai, for Germany. Right? Now, I need to make a transaction between both of them, HSBC to Standard Chartered. The traditional method of a SWIFT will probably take about 3 to 4 days, whereas powered by this consortium, it can happen much quicker. But here comes an interesting situation. I have a Deutsche Bank and a Standard Chartered who are not forming part of the same consortium. But I know there is a HSBC bank who is forming part of the consortium. So the Deutsche Bank will route it through HSBC from one consortium to the other consortium. And from there, HSBC will push the transaction to Standard Chartered Bank. So I hope you're able to understand the scenarios which we can think of. It is huge and the opportunities are equally high. Right? In our very own India, this is one of the proposals of the Vajra platform. Vajra in the Indian language means diamond. Right? A platform which can standardize and probably use APIs and distributed ledger technology for authentication of transactions. This is a proposal which came up from the NPCI and from the Planning Commission, but nevertheless, this is taken a slightly different shape as of now. But the conceptual model is here, where you have participants, you have the clearing nodes, all of those operate within the DLT, and through APIs they pull and they share the information. Right? A very interesting use case is that pertaining to Walmart, how they were able to track a product, which took 7 days, they were able to track it in 2 seconds. Right? I'll give you a use case. So there was a person who went to Walmart, purchased a mango or a berry or meat or a poultry, and he consumed it, and obviously he, after a point in time, because of various reasons, he fell sick. On diagnosis, they realized that there was an allergen or a variant which was causing allergy in the food he had taken. So he obviously sued Walmart saying, you gave me, bad food and things like that. Walmart had to pay a compensation. But Walmart said, we need to do something to solve this. How do I track the meat or the mango or the berry which has come from which farm? Because maybe the farm may have used a wrong pesticide or maybe have been infected by a worm, which is actually causing all of this. They were unable to track it. And therefore, they partnered with IBM, built this Hyperledger technology for the purpose of using Hyperledger technology for the purpose of tracking food or a mango. What they did was, or what they decided was, every product which was coming from a farm will have an IoT sensor embedded into it. That sensor will give a trigger directly to my blockchain, and every transaction will be captured into my blockchain. So if I want to know where this particular lettuce or mango or berry has come from, I can backward track. But hang on, this is a smart thing they did. They did not implement blockchain for the entire ecosystem. They implemented it only for vegetables, producers like this. Why? Packaged food anyways has labels, and I can scan the label to identify the history, which means when you're implementing a blockchain solution, Do not implement for every possible use case. There are scenarios which this technology can solve, and probably you should be targeting, right? Another last use case probably I'll pick up is a Brooklyn microgrid, where people had solar panels in their homes, and each of the solar panels had a reading, and they used to share this power with various people, right? So they were consumers of power, they were producers of power, they were both. We call them as prosumers. Prosumers, right? Producer as well as consumer. Someday you would produce more, someday you would consume more. There's a party at your home, you're consuming more power. There is, nobody at your home, you're actually producing power and not consuming. So now, obviously, each of them had the solar panels. You had to share cost. They said, forget it. Who's going to keep a track of it? Let's put in a blockchain-enabled system which will route all the transactions through it, keep a record of what is the cost spent, how much I have to receive, how much I have to pay. Settlement is instant, right? So those are the use cases. Comes an interesting question. What is the impact on my audit? There's a lot of opportunity to streamline the entire financial reporting process. Auditor can have near real-time access to data, right? And as and when these transactions are happening, we can call this as a triple accounting system, which means there is a debit in my books, there's a credit in your books, and there is a corresponding entry in the blockchain as well. So the triple entry, and that entry in the blockchain is sort of validated. You can have opportunities like auditing of smart contracts, auditing of oracles. We spoke of those things. But the challenges are huge. It is still evolving. We do not know how the vendors will eventually own it, who owns the credentials, what if there was a cybersecurity issue, what if one of the systems was subject to an hack or an attack, what happens to the entire infrastructure, can one blockchain speak with the other blockchain, how are we going to store the data? These are all questions which over a point in time you will address. Right? So if you are a professional firm or an accounting firm, what is it that you can do? You can assist in companies who are actually developing this blockchain fundamental design. You can evaluate the POC. You can assess as a risk in implementation. Please see what the impact on audit is. Perhaps audit smart contracts, audit oracles. And this gives you a massive set of opportunities for you to be in the profession. When it comes to a country like India, significantly grow. This is, of course, a 2-year-old report. For want of updated report, I just thought I'll share this, where most of the 3 use cases in blockchain, especially in India, has been in the land registry, farm insurance, and digital certificate. Right? One example I can speak on the farm and the insurance sector. In Gujarat, what happened is the fertilizer subsidy, which probably took about a little over 4 months to settle, right, was settled less than 15 to 30 days. Because the transactions took place in a blockchain, there is no need for me to verify and validate it, everything in detail. And I know that is a trustworthy system. So therefore, the working capital for the companies who are in the fertilizer manufacturing space from 130 days got reduced to mere 15 to 30 days, right? So that's a massive. And these are few of the countries or states who have partnered with international organizations. This detailed report is available in NASCOM. You can probably look at it, right? So my key message to most of the friends in the accounting and audit world is, I gave you a perspective of AI, I gave you a perspective of audit. I think the world is changing at a very, very rapid pace. Every problem which the world had, today technology is enabling you to identify a solution. And therefore, my take-home message to you is, the world's biggest problems are world's biggest opportunities. Identify opportunities in the space, and perhaps you could be the future digital accountant which the world needs. Thank you so much for being a patient audience. This is a quick background about our firm, Ken & Co. We are into technology and risk assessment, a boutique firm, one of the rare firms in India which does exclusively risk-based assessment and technology audits, right? And these are a few examples of what we do, just to give a perspective on how firms can be exclusively dedicated even in this space and actually make a lot of milestones, right? So that's about me. That's about what I had my time. And I've taken a little longer than what I should, because I think there was this introduction and other elements, but I gave you the perspective of what is necessary. Feel free to connect to me over LinkedIn, and happy to take Q&A if any. Thank you.
So we have some questions.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. The first question is hash graph technology better than blockchain and will outperform or not?
Currently, no. It is still, did you say hash graph?
Yeah.
Hash graph is still at a nascent stage compared to that of a blockchain, right? I would say that, it is using a fundamental concept of hashing, but it does not use a concept called as a mining, which is basically identifying, transactions. So therefore, is hash graph better than blockchain? To a limited extent, people are saying yes, but still we have not got any conclusive theories in terms of how it can happen, because the concept of mining, which blockchain takes longer, is sort of reduced into the hash graph methodology. And it is believed that hash graph technology is a little energy efficient compared to that of your blockchain, because you're processing every transaction through so many engines, which means what? That much more energy you're consuming, right? So considering the ESG and other things which is going on, yes, we are inclining, but it is a little too early, because blockchain itself, it took so much time to evolve. So hash graph, I think, will take much more.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, export claim blockchain does robust check and creates chain of blocks which cannot be defrauded. Yet we heard about fraud in blockchain world. How that happened, and does that not shake confidence in blockchain technology?
Very good question. If you see most of the cases of these blockchain frauds, how it has happened is using very simple methods, right? Let's take an example. I have a blockchain let's say I have a system which is backed by blockchain. I have a username and password. Most of the times these attacks, if you see the root cause, my username and password has been hacked. That is nowhere to do with blockchain technology. That is to do with simple cyber security, which I think Amishji will be speaking, of course, right? So if my accounts have compromised, username and password is compromised, right? It is, forget about blockchain. Any technology, you cannot do anything. So the end user has to still be safeguarding it. So therefore, the fundamentals of risk will still remain. It magnifies in a different scale in certain scenarios.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, can any third party get to know the transaction details using the previous hash details?
Absolutely possible. That is the whole system of blockchain, where I can identify the source and the destination and what the transaction is, and I can re-verify it, right? So it is like, transaction between A and B is taken place. Using that transaction or the blockchain or the hash, I can revalidate it. But then comes an interesting question. What if this was a confidential information, right? So if it is a public blockchain, you can verify it. If it's a private blockchain, only if you have access, you can verify it, right? So first example. Second, you can always ask, if it's a public blockchain, then Bitcoin is a public blockchain. Why can I not verify between whom the transactions have taken place? Even today, in a Bitcoin setup, you can verify between whom the transactions have taken place. But it will only say the transaction has taken place to AABBXX to YYZZAA. Who are these people? We do not know. In the banking setup, I know these two people because these two people come into the system only after a KYC, right? So that is the fear which the anti-money laundering initiatives have on the blockchain.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, can AI be used for audit planning? If yes, possible to share a case study or methodology?
Okay, I'm not sure if they had looked into my screen where I was showing the Excel demo, right? I did make a mention of it. Otherwise, this recording is available. Please revisit. A simple use case of AI is get your data, get your basic data, understand what each columns are. Just format it right. For example, invoice numbers, convert into a text format, not a number format, because you don't total invoice numbers, right? Date, put into proper DDMMY format. your sales, whatever is there, format it right and ask Excel to auto analyze the data. You will be surprised with the results. There will be false positives because Excel presumes certain things. Just because it has a number field in invoice, it should not be totaling it. It should total only the invoice value rather than the invoice number. So there could be certain false positives, but definitely it can help you for your risk assessment. This is the basic step. There are advanced AI-enabled solutions or softwares.
Thank you. The next question is, what are the sources we can learn AI?
Okay. Now there are two ways in which you can interpret this question, right? One way of interpreting this question is, hey, okay, I want to learn AI for what? Do I want to learn AI programming? Do I want to earn things like Python and other things? The solutions. Yes, that is one stream. You go into the core tech. But rather, I would prefer you being or we being a domain expertise in finance, in accounting, in audit. We need to know how to drive the car rather than repairing the car or making the car. Right? So understanding of AI should be necessary in the context where, just like how a car is, right? If you were using a two-wheeler and you were upgrading yourself to a car, what is the first thing you do? Understand how to navigate, how much of a turn you need to take, right? How do you use the gear systems, etc. I think AI, you should look from that angle. No, I want to go to deeper into it. Absolutely, you have the freedom. There are portals available. I think Udemy and YouTube are the biggest tutorials today. Right? Udemy is, of course, paid. YouTube is free. Of course, you have to tolerate with that advertisements a little bit, but I think YouTube is the biggest university. edX.org is another fantastic website. Lot of free courses are available. Only if you want certificate, you need to pay. That's a very interesting way of it, right? Your choice.
And the last question is, since there is no central authority to control blockchain, so whether blockchain is a trusted approach?
Since there is
no central authority to control blockchain.
See, there are two ways of looking at this. If there is a centralized authority, people get that comfort that tomorrow if something goes wrong, I have a redressal authority and resolution. That is one way of looking at it. Therefore, it is good. The other flip side of looking at it is, hey, if it is a centralized authority, he will control everything. Therefore, independence is hampered, right? That's another way of looking at it. Initially, blockchain came into picture because of a decentralized concept. We call it as distributed. We don't even call it decentralized. We call it distributed. That means all of them are on par with each other. But what this has proven in the recent happenings is, when all of them are on par with each other, I can simply enter into an arrangement with these 10 people, say, boss, you support me, we will rule over the rest of them. Right? And we all know, great power comes great responsibility. Right? I did not say that. The famous Spider-Man dialogue, right? So I think that is what is more important, that power when you have at one centralized location is always a problem. But if a regulator is somehow able to manage it, I think it is for good.
Okay, sir, that's all from the question side from the participants. So thank you so much. And after your session, I can summarize that if future generation are to remember us more with gratitude than sorrow, we must achieve more than just the miracles of technology. So we must also leave we also must leave them a glimpse of the world as it was created, not just as it is looked when we got through with it. So thank you, sir, for helping.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Achieve all the ABCD of the technology. You thought the ABCD of technology very fabulously. We are also getting feedbacks from the participants acknowledging that you were a superb speaker for the today's session.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We would like to express a deep sense of gratitude to sir for guiding us on this topic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Take care.
So moving on to the next session, we have with us our speaker, Amish Thakur, sir. He is a FCA, CISA, CISM, DISA, and he has 22 years of sterling international experience in rendering expert professional services in the field of forensic audit, investigation, system audit, data analysis, process re-engineering in ERP, SAP, CBS environment. He has assisted regulators like TRAI, FIU, Income Tax, SABI, RBI, local police authorities, cyber cells in various investigation and forensic assignments. He has industrial expertise in media, shipping, and BFSI intermediates. He has trained income tax officials at ACIT, ITO, AO grades at National Academy of Direct Tax on data analysis and forensic accounting. He was a visiting faculty at various colleges in Mumbai. With this brief introduction, I request Sir to take over the session. Over to you, sir. Amish, sir. Amish, sir. Hello.
Hello, good evening. So since the session was ongoing, I logged in and I was waiting to get it over. So great. Shall I resume or do we need to give some break to the participants? Anybody?
No, sir, you can resume.
Okay. Would you tell me how many participants are on board? Any number?
Yeah, we have 800 participants. All
800.
Yeah.
My goodness. So heads up to you. At 7:30 or rather 8 o'clock at night, you are here on a working day and digesting technology. So heads up to you. And with this, I'll start my session without consuming more of your time. I'll come straight to the point. I'll share my screen.
So let me correct. Initially, there were 800. Right now, we have 2,200 participants.
2,200. My goodness. Whooping number, isn't it?
Yes.
Chami, am I audible? Loud
Yes,
and clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Also, if you can confirm if my screen is visible.
Yes, sir. Can we? Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So as I said, 2,200 people on a working day at 8 o'clock digesting technology. So this is for you all. Yeah. I'm sure this statement is very apt and applies to all 2,000 participants who are listening, who are glued to this Zoom webinar. Although I cannot interact straight away, I need to go through Charmy. But I'm sure that your enthusiasm after listening to our eminent speaker, the previous speaker, is really up. Yeah. So a lot of exciting things. And such a faculty, to take you through artificial intelligence and blockchain, he is so experienced and energetic. So I'm sure I'll continue that till 9 o'clock. Okay. So I need not read this. I'm sure you got what it means to you. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to cover the C and D part of this session, which is going to talk about cybersecurity and data analytics. I'm going to flip the sequence and I'll first start with data analytics because then somewhere we will, this data analytics topic is connected to artificial intelligence. where you had gone through machine learning, deep learning, and a lot of discussion about data. So I thought it's prudent to flip the sequence, take you through data analytics first, and then go to altogether a different area of practice, which is on cybersecurity. So friends, since I am not able to interact with you, let me straight away tell you that this is the need of an hour. Okay, we need to be a good sensor of frauds, anomalies, outliers, aberrations, inconsistencies, patterns from the data. We need to be able to poke our nose, deep dive into data, and figure out anything and everything that a data has to say. In nutshell, my friends, we need to make friendship with the data. We need to be talking to data. Data has a rich picture about the business. Data will tell you what even business owners wouldn't know. And that's where you can add value. You can come into picture, help the businesses grow, and thereby you grow. Okay. The way I am going to structure my session is I am going to not only demonstrate the importance of data analytics, at the same point in time, I am going to route you through or guide you through that how do you get into this domain. It is very easy said and done that these technologies are helping us growing our profession, but it's very difficult to find a way to get into these domains. So after taking you through the concepts, I'll also guide you with the roadmap in terms of if anyone is interested, how to begin a career or how to cross-sell this service of data analytics to your customers. What are the things that you should be learning at minimum? And finally, if time permits, I'll share a live case study, how I minted money during COVID times, sitting at home, remotely working, equivalent to 5 years of my overall practice earning in just 2 projects of data analytics. Yeah. So this is the roadmap for my session for next 1 hour. I'll try to squeeze whatever I have to deliver in 1 hour. This is also an art, isn't it? Something which I was to cover in 90 minutes, I'll try my best to cover in 60 minutes because at the end of the day, you also have to, have some other requirements or commitments with your family. So, to begin with, I'm just starting with this clip. Now, what this clip has to show, all of you must have recently participated in Flipkart Big Billion Day sale. Now, the objective of showing you this clip is to tell you the power of data coupled with storytelling. This is the data available on Flipkart's mobile app as well as the website immediately within 10 minutes from the end of Big Billion Day sale. Within 10 minutes of Big Billion Day sale. And you look at this clip, this is only the data that they have analyzed to thank the customers for making this entire event so grand successful. So the point I'm trying to drive by showing you here this clip is the power of data analytics. Look at the different aspects that they have analyzed. So while I'm speaking, you can do multitasking by going through the clip. See what are the ways they have narrated and given you the explanation about their success. Yeah. So here they are saying that 10 million plus total gamers have played the games. Yeah. And now here Amitabh Bachchan is saying, mere paas data hai. So something which is worth billions of rupees is data. And what he's saying, it's all here. You can just read it loud at your convenience. I'm just taking a pause here so that you can read through it. Now see the interesting facts. Here comes the storytelling. Yeah, numbers don't speak on its own. If you couple up these numbers with something, then you can understand the magnitude of it. So let us understand few of these points. It says phones sold when lined up can reach from Delhi to Mumbai. total ACs sold is equal to the population of Monaco. Total tea purchased by the consumers can serve England 3 times. That speaks volume, my friends. And this only will come if you analyze the data and couple it up with something as a storyline. And then if you add these celebrities, your story goes well. Now, this is the data which Flipkart has analyzed just to thank customers, and it took them only 10 minutes. Now, imagine what is the kind of real time analysis of data that they must be doing for their customers. Now, why am I sharing this? I am trying to give you a message that everybody is running after data. Everybody wants data. If you look at the richest top 10 people, 3 of them are the ones who are sitting on tons of data. So there arises a need for people like you and me who are the best professionals in the industry, who understands the business, who understands the regulatory framework, and if you top it up, the qualities that you have with data analytics ability, it's a win-win situation for not only you, but for your client as well. Yeah, these are the domains where you can see tangible rewards. Your work can literally benefit the client and you can count that benefit. Most of our services are not tangible. Like for example, the stat audit report. The moment you submit the report, you don't know what has happened to that. Process audits, risk-based audits, they are more of control improvisation, and it takes years for you to realize the benefit that your client has achieved out of this assignments. Here, it's a straightforward. Yeah, your assignment will exactly be able to tell the client how much penny they have saved just by analyzing the data. Okay, so now, having given you this glimpse, let us proceed and understand why data analytics is so important in today's world. You all know that moving to digital is no longer a trend, it is necessity. Yeah, gone are the days where you can live without this technology. Today, invariably, you end up using artificial intelligence. Yeah, the Alexa, the smartwatch, all the text to message, emails that you're writing, or the applications that you're using, or even the Siri, Cortana, they are all the examples of general AI, which you are using without knowing that it's part of AI. IoT is what you are using every day in, day out, like connected cars, smart homes, smartwatch, everything which has a tag of smart is nothing but an IoT that you are using, correct? So you are generating data every moment, yeah? And what is needed is the engine to mine that data and give business insights. So friends, what do? We collect big data from the businesses, we convert that data into smart data, and we make decisions, or we support in making decisions. If I were to aptly describe this, 9 out of 10 board meetings, my friends, today the board doesn't decide based on the gut feeling, based on the experience, based on the whims and fancies of their power. No. 9 out of 10 board meetings, the decisions are data driven. Board carries tons of data points and they have to be answerable to the larger stakeholder. If the decisions are based on data, it goes well. Yeah. So they need people like you and me who can convert the big data to smart data and feed them with the data points which can help them to decide further. I was going through the World Economic Forum report, and this is the report I regularly review. 2018, before COVID times, what World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report was saying that the jobs landscape in 2022, back in 2018, they were predicting 4 years hence how the market would look like, and look at top 10 emerging roles. The first one is data analysts and scientists. Second one, the topic which our eminent faculty has just covered, AI and machine learning. And now look at the reality. Yeah, I'll show you the reality as well. Top 10 declining, really shocking. Yeah, look at number 2, accounting, bookkeeping, and payroll. Look at number 7, accountants and auditors. With blockchain coming in, with automatic reconciliation happening, with AI taking over the charge of processes, with IoT coming in, there is hardly any need for accountants and auditors. Things will be automated, and which has already happened. Due to COVID, the adoption of technology is accelerated. Many industries have appreciated the benefits of adopting technology, have realized gains out of it. The very fact that 2,200 people across India or maybe from outside India sitting and attending this webinar at one platform is nothing but courtesy of technology, right? And same is getting leveraged by the industry big time. So we are now moving towards Industry 5.0, which is not going to be much different than Industry 4, which has adopted technology very heavily, right? Look at this prediction in 2018. Adoption among companies by 2022, 23% humanoid robots will be adopted by 35% of the financial services and investing company. And friends, we chartered accountants get bulk of the work from financial sector, and they are the first movers of technology. So there's an immense opportunity, there is immense scope available in this domain as we speak. Now, this I'm deliberately showing you 4 years back story, which was the prediction by World Economic Forum. Today, we are in 2022, and look at this 2020 report. 2022 report is still awaited, but look at this 2020 report. What it has to say, same thing, increasing in demand, data analytics, big data specialists, digital transformation specialists. This is a big domain. Entire practice can be carved out by way of helping your client in transforming from their manual processes or a standalone applications to SAPs or ERPs or CBS or any other integrated platform. Maybe moving to cloud. You can be part of their digital transformation journey. And what you see here, look at the threat. Something in my previous slide was at number 7. Something which was there on my slide at number 7, because of adoption of technology, it is now accelerated to number 3. So slowly and gradually, number 3 and 4, these jobs are going to become redundant. That doesn't mean that there's a threat on our profession. That means there's an opportunity for us, yeah, to delve into a domain which is integrated by technology. These are the top 15 skills for 2025. You can pick, choose any of these technologies which will engage you or keep you busy for minimum 4 to 5 years ahead. And if the pace of adoption continues like this, then all these technologies will be a real-time kind of a fact, or this is a kind of a reality that you will experience, and you will be working on these domains as a technocrat, as a techno-chartered accountant. Okay. Just adjusting my screen. So, in nutshell, what do we need to have is an integrated approach. We are good in audit. We are subject matter specialists. What we need to do is we need to upskill our knowledge on data analytics. Yeah. So I've just given you a brief as to why you should spend your time, effort, energy, and invest your money into learning this, into fine-tuning, upskilling on data analytics, right? Now, I'll just tell you few more things about how industry has benefited by leveraging on data analytics and how can we chip into and help them. Now, these are all popular names that you would know. So between this and this, the only difference is I've added the establishment year. So if you look at Google, Netflix, these two companies and Amazon, they are early movers in the technology domain. So they somewhere came in 1994, 1997, 1998. Then after a decade, these second wave of companies have come in. But even if they happen to be the first movers, many companies who have started during this time frame, they have vanished. People doesn't even know them, like Xerox, like Nikon, or even in case of mobile phone, uh, the early movers or the manufacturers of mobile handsets who have not adopted technology, they are out of market now. Now, how have they survived and have grown so big and are still in the market is for these reasons. Just have a look at them. They understood the digital transformation, they adopted them. Yeah, they succeeded since they all understood the value of data and they mined the data on real time. Some more facts. Uber, Airbnb, they have no assets on the balance sheet. They do not have any physical infrastructure. Like, for example, Uber, none of the cab is owned by Uber. None of the hotel is owned by Airbnb, but they are still doing best globally. Why? Because they bring people together through data. They understand the need of the customer. Even my faculty, co-faculty would have talked about hyper customization. Yeah, everybody is interested to tap the customers to provide them something very unique to cater to their needs that comes only through data. Yeah. So just to give you a simple example, the moment I book my airline ticket and the email from the airline hits into my Gmail account, okay, immediately within 30 minutes, I'll get a message from Uber saying that your next ride to domestic airport or an international airport will qualify for 30 rupees discount or 5% discount or 100 rupees discount. Now we would wonder how Uber would come to know that I am going to board a flight from an international airport. That is the power of data, my friends. Looking into the time, I am going a little quick and I'm going to skip few slides, which I feel that you can refer it later or something you can pick up later. Just to give you a perspective, 35% of sale done by Amazon is through recommendation engine. They don't spend on marketing. They don't have any large events where they showcase their products. They don't have any intermediaries. Only data mining generates 35%, which is a big number. 1/3 of Amazon's sales is done only by recommendation engine. Yeah. So I'll just skip how they do it. Coming back to what is relevant to us once again. Everything is relevant, my friends, but it's just that the time is running ahead. So I'm skipping few slides. We will end up dealing with structured data and an unstructured data. Today, most of the data that you extract from CBS, like Finacle, FlaxCube, Banks24, or you extract from SAPs or ERPs, they are structured. They are the form of databases. On the top of it, there lies an unstructured data in the form of videos, photographs, or Twitter chats, Facebook chats, customers' feedback, reviews. Yeah. So you need to be able to convert that data into a structured data and then analyze. Okay. So typically the big data analytics framework or data analytics frameworks starts with the step of collecting the data. And as I said, every businesses are collecting comprehensive set of data. They have everything that the business does. It's just that they need somebody to mine the data and give them the feeds. So collection is the start point. Then while we are collecting the data, a lot of garbage comes in, a lot of unwarranted data comes in. Even the formatting requires to be done. So that is part of cleaning. Again, I'm not going into the nitty-gritties, considering the objective is not that we have to go into the detail of it. Then we have to align the data with the business principles, business protocols, business code of conduct, business regulations, and understand whether everything is falling in place or not. And that's the job of process auditor, internal auditor, where you are an eye and ear of the management. So when you align the data, you will come to know there are certain outliers, there are certain inconsistencies, there are principles which are not followed, and that will trigger the red flags. Then comes the analysis part, which is where we can literally flip the scenario for our client. We can feed them with so much of insights, and they would be surprised to see this much information residing in their own data which they don't know. They own the business, they own the data, but because they do not have enough time to mine the data, they rely on us. And finally, storytelling. Imagine if Flipkart would have told you that they have sold phones, like in terms of quantity, say 500,000 phones worth about 3.7 billion. These are abstract numbers. They don't give you any visibility. But the moment they narrated a story that if you keep one phone besides the other, it will be equivalent to the distance from Delhi to Mumbai. That means you're talking about 900 kilometers. Huge. So that is a power of visualization. There are tools where your data can be put onto these dynamic dashboards, which can give you a very visual picture, an appealing picture, and you can take decisions better. And finally comes the job of alerting. Our job is not one time. Our job is to regularly inform the client whether there is anything wrong in the data, whether the practices followed by the business are incorrect, and that's part of follow-up. And here I've termed it as alerting. Okay. So typically, how the entire pipeline works, we collect the data, it is lying in your own server or on the cloud server. From there, it goes into the analytics tool. There are many analytics tools that I'll speak about. I'll show you in the roadmap. You can pick up any of them and learn and acquire the skill set. Then through query engine, you can mine the data, you can write queries, you can gather more insights and throw this data into visualization tool like Power Query, for example, which you can connect, Excel, which you can connect. It is here. Yeah. Then running queries on that data and throwing it on Power BI is something called as visualization. There are another five types of analytics. I'm going to cover 4 out of them because fifth one is very complicated and no need to cover in this domain here in this platform rather. So there are 4 types of analytics. Yeah, it starts with descriptive and diagnostic. The good news is Indian organizations are not heavily investing in these domains. Yeah, so there arises a need for you to give them the perspective, tell them that, okay, you have invested up to here, but you look at the added value contribution. You are not benefiting much by only investing here. Because they're not complex, anybody can do, and it is not going to give you a solution. It is only going to show you the root cause of the problem. If you understand the root cause of the problem, it doesn't mean that you have resolved the problem. You have to go next step, take some actions, and then resolve that problem, which comes through predictive and prescriptive. This is where they are most complex in nature, they require a lot of investments, and it adds a lot of value. So the good thing is that most of your clients that you're serving today or the industries in which you're working today, they have adopted or invested into technologies up to this stage. If you understand data analytics, if you can make friendship with data, if you can talk to data like nobody else can do, you can bring your organization or client to the next level and the final level where they earn maximum benefits in tangible form. Okay. So descriptive and diagnostic is what we typically do. This is nothing but backward looking, more like an audit. What happened and why happened. But what is going to help and to prevent that, what action needs to be taken is part of this. Again, I'm not going into the detail because I have another topic to cover. So I'll skip the discussion over here. Okay. So what can big data tell us about our customer? I'll show you this video. It's a wonderful video. It's available in the public domain, but it is apt to see right now. Okay. If, for example, I come to you and tell you that, hey, look, now you know me. You have attended my session. Charmi has already given my brief introduction. I'm everywhere available on the public domain. So I'm a reliable person. can you lend me 10 lakh rupees? So 2,000 people listening to me. Not even single person will be willing to lend me to 20 lakh rupees. Why? Because you don't trust me. Yeah. If I give you some security, by all means, you will have a higher level of comfort. But without security, not even a single rupee you are going to lend me, although you know me since last half an hour. But if I have a way to create a trust, if I have a way to know more about you and your capability of repaying, then there is a merit, there's a case for me to give you 20 lakh, not only to you, to any unknown person. So today when I go to the bank look at my CIBIL score, my financial history, everything, and then lends me money. What if I don't have a bank account? What if I don't have a CIBIL score? And I am a legitimate person. I have a willingness to repay. I am a honest person. But still bank would not lend me. So bank is losing out big time on these type of customers. Now this is a background of the video that I'm going to show you. Consume this video and you will understand the power of data.
How much do you need to know about a person before you'd feel comfortable making a loan? Suppose you wanted to lend $1,000 to the person sitting 2 rows behind you. What would you need to know about that person before you'd feel comfortable? My mom came to the US from India in her late 30s. She's a doctor in Brooklyn, and she often lets friends and neighbors come to see her for health services, whether they can pay right away or not. I remember running into her patients with her at the grocery store or on the sidewalk, and sometimes they would come and pay her right on the spot for previous appointments. She would thank them and then ask them about their families and their health. She gave them credit because she trusted them. Most of us are like my mom. We would give credit to someone that we know that we live next to. But most of us are probably not going to lend to a stranger unless we know a little something about them. Banks, credit card companies, and other financial institutions don't know us on a personal level, but they do have a way of trusting us, and that's through our credit scores. Our credit scores have been created through an aggregation and analysis of our public consumer credit data. And because of them, we have pretty much easy access to all of the goods and services that we need, from getting electricity to buying a home or taking a risk and starting a business. But there are 2.5 billion people around the world that don't have a credit score. That's a third of the world's population. They don't have a score because there are no formal public records on them, no bank accounts, no credit histories, and no social security numbers. And because they don't have a score, they don't have access to the credit or financial products that can improve their lives. They are not trusted. So we wanted to find a way to build trust and to open up financial access for these 2.5 billion. So we created a mobile application that builds credit scores for them using mobile data. There are currently over 1 billion smartphones in emerging markets, and people are using them the same way that we do. They're texting their friends, they're looking up directions, they're browsing the internet, and they're even making financial transactions. Over time, this data is getting captured on our phones, and it provides a really rich picture of a person's life. Our customers give us access to this data, and we capture it through our mobile application. It helps us understand the creditworthiness of people like Jennifer, a small business owner in Nairobi, Kenya. Jennifer is 65 years old and for decades has been running a food stall in the Central Business District. She has 3 sons who she put through vocational school, and she's also the leader of her local chama or savings group. Jennifer's food stall does well. She makes just enough every day to cover her expenses, but she's not financially secure. Any emergency could force her into debt. And she has no discretionary income to improve her family's way of living, for emergencies, or for investing into growing her business. If Jennifer wants credit, her options are limited. She could get a microloan, but she'd have to form a group that could help vouch for her credibility. And even then, the loan sizes would be way too small to really have an impact on her business, averaging around $150. Loan sharks are always an option, but with interest rates that are well above 300%, they're financially risky. And because Jennifer doesn't have collateral or credit history, she can't walk into a bank and ask for a business loan. But one day, Jennifer's son convinced her to download our application and apply for a loan. Jennifer answered a few questions on her phone, and she gave us access to a few key data points on her device. And here's what we saw. So bad news first. Jennifer had a low savings balance and no previous loan history. These are factors that would have thrown up a red flag to a traditional bank, but there were other points in her history that showed us a much richer picture of her potential. So for one, we saw that she made regular phone calls to her family in Uganda. Well, it turns out that the data shows a 4% increase in repayment among people who consistently communicate with a few close contacts. We could also see that though she traveled around a lot throughout the day, she actually had pretty regular travel patterns, and she was either at home or at her food stall. And the data shows a 6% increase in repayment among customers who are consistent with where they spend most of their time. We could also see that she communicated a lot with many different people throughout the day, and that she had a strong support network. Our data shows that people who communicate with more than 58 different contacts tend to be more likely to be good borrowers. In Jennifer's case, she communicated with 89 different individuals, which showed a 9% increase in her repayment. These are just some of the thousands of different data points that we look at to understand a person's creditworthiness. And after analyzing all of these different data points, we took the first risk and gave Jennifer a loan. This is data that would not be found on a paper trail or in any formal financial record, but it proves trust. By looking beyond income, we can see people in emerging markets that may seem risky and unpredictable on the surface are actually willing and have the capacity to repay. Our credit scores have helped us deliver over 200,000 loans in Kenya in just the past year, and our repayment rates are above 90%.
So this much video was relevant for us to see. I'll just take a pause. We'll allow you some time to think about what this video has to offer to us. How do I step into this business of data analytics, this practice of data analytics? Yeah. So after this session is over, there's a lot of idea that this video is going to give you. The basic is understand the pain area of the client. Okay. Now imagine if you have a customer which is a bank, which is losing big time. Potential customers who are willing to pay, who have capacity to pay, but because their credit scores are not there, their credit history is not available, they are not able to pay. So just by developing an algorithm using artificial intelligence, machine learning, and over a period of time, when a decent amount of data is collected, then to it, why can't I think of a solution that will give a bank a comfort to lend customers who have no financial records? Bank's business will grow, and thereby you will grow. Because we chartered accountants understand banking like nobody else, we understand regulatory framework, we play with data in and out. It's just that we need to develop that capability of analyzing the data, poking our nose, looking at opportunities where leveraging on the data, we can develop a business model. Yeah. Straight away, I'll tell you one case study of mine, which we have implemented the project during COVID times. Okay. One of my clients was suffering with 9% of cash theft. The business model is very, very handsome. They are making almost 19 to 20% of the EBITDA. 19 to 20% of the EBITDA. Very, very lucrative business. However, their business was to go and load money into ATMs. And the biggest expense or the loss item sitting in their balance sheet, sitting in their P&L is cash theft. Now they were serving 20,000 ATMs across India. Okay, they are loading cash into 20,000 ATMs across India every day. Different banks, different ATMs, different locations, different type of locking mechanism, different vendors of ATM, different softwares, these many complexities. On the top of it, handling cash is a biggest risk. 9 to 10% of their EBITDA was just eaten away by the cash theft. People who are going and loading money into ATM, they were stealing the money. Now, they tried their best. They had a large team of 200 people. Obviously, it was all contracted staff who used to go to the ATM site, used to physically count cash and reconcile it with the SWIFT and the general ledger balance of the CBS. And when they do that, then only they'll come to know that there's a shortage. So a person has to physically go to the site, count the cash, go to the bank, retrieve the balance from the SWIFT, do a three-way reconciliation to figure out whether this cash balance is tallying with the ledger balance. By the time they do that, people who have stolen the money have left the organization. So even if they detect the loss, recovery was minimal. Of course, they had an insurance cover, but the premium was very high if they go for all the cases. So the threshold is any loss less than 2 lakh, they cannot claim. Yeah, so if they want that much to claim, the premium was going very high. So they were having catch-22 situation. One way, if they go with the exhaustive insurance cover, their insurance premium is going up. Other way, 2 lakh rupees is the basic exposure, the base level exposure they had to get for every theft. Now, what we simply did, we spent decent enough time understanding what data that they are collecting. Yeah, we spend a lot of time in talking to data, in making friendship with data, identifying the red flags that would trigger the ATM, which is a suspicious ATM. So, simply speak, we have developed an algorithm basis the data analytics that we have done, where we have categorized the ATMs into red, green, and amber, the color combination that we are used to it. Red means there is a high probability based on the score. Like if you see the video, there were different parameters, and every parameter was adding a credit score. Similarly, we had 320 parameters that we have identified from the data, and we have given the score to every parameter depending upon the severity of that point. So when I run that algorithm on that data, for every ATM, there is a corresponding score that it will generate. And that score will determine whether it's a red ATM, amber ATM, or a green ATM. So out of 15 to 17,000 ATM, 200 odd ATMs will turn out to be amber or green, and 30 or 40 ATMs will turn out to be red. What we do, we send the team right to those ATMs physically to count the cash and identify the theft there and there where the people are working in the organization. So not only we were timely detecting it, but the recovery ratio has increased. The cost of filing FIR, going and recovering the money from the location of the custodian, all of that has reduced. So today we delivered this project somewhere in 2020 first half, which is like April or something. We are in 2022 now. So almost 2 years have elapsed, and the algorithm is learning on its own and improvising it. Today we have reached at a 63% of level of accuracy, which means that 9% of the loss has come down to 5.35% as we speak. And we are 100% sure that if the algorithm is learning, data analytics is generating a lot of red flags, it will come down to a manageable 4%, which is an industry norm. If something like this we can deliver, you all can deliver. If you're working in an organization, think about the pain area, look for the solution in data, understand the tools available in the industry who can help you, and your job is done, right? So I've got only 15 minutes, so I'll quickly give you the roadmap. So start with the small tools if you want to develop your skills. Allow me a minute. Start with the basic understanding of Excel, Google Sheets. Slowly and gradually improvise your understanding on MS Access, SQL servers. These are all freewares available. Some of them, not all of them. Like SQLite is a freeware. Spend some time, go to Udemy or go to Simply Learn, go to YouTube. There are channels who can train you free of cost. And the good thing is you need not go for any certification in this domain. There is absolutely no certification required, no need to invest money for certification. And this is a domain where you more the time you spend on these tools, more you talk to data, the better you become. Yeah. Then there are tools like ACL, IDEA, Arbiter, SAS, Power Query. You can learn these tools as and when whichever tool is used by your organizations, or if you're into your own practice, explore these tools and then learn them. These are all BI tools. This has got very limited use in data analytics, but having a knowledge of this is important. But having an expertise on this will give you work. Having a knowledge on this will be useful. Yeah. That's it about data analytics. I'll come back to you for questions if any. Let me quickly cover cybersecurity in whatever 15 minutes we are left with, and then we'll cover question answers quickly. Okay. I know I'm rushing, but the time frame that I have finished, and be mindful about your commitments as well. So cybersecurity, my friends, is an upcoming domain. A lot is happening. There's a dire need for professionals like us in this domain. Regulators are struggling. There are cases available everywhere within an organization. Every prominent organization that you can think of has been compromised at some point, and they need people who can support them in securing their infrastructure. Okay, that's the backdrop of this. Let me demonstrate this by way of some facts. Since we are a data analytics people, I will support my contentions or statements with data. So why cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is important because it protects the resources and most importantly, the data that we collect. Yeah. Now, these are the facts which will help you to understand the importance of cybersecurity and the need for professionals like us. Look at the cost to the company in $1 trillion. Which is this cost? Cost of securing their assets from the threat of cybersecurity. And if you see, just look at the trend, it is increasing. Yeah, so the cost is increasing. The good thing is that companies are mindful of their investments into these. Yeah, so they are willingly investing just to avoid the exposure on the cybersecurity front. Look at this. Long tail cost of cyber attacks. Now, cyber attacks is not like a normal disease which has come and gone. It has a cascading effect. Yeah, it spoils the goodwill. It finds it difficult for an organization to rebuild the trust. So, say for example, if Citibank has got hacked, yeah, so the first year, the impact it will have on the business is 67%. Next year, some customers will come back because organization will put in extra effort to give them the comfort that now everything is hunky-dory, our networks are secured, everything is fine. So some customers will still come back, but the 22% long tail cost of second year will still be there. Third year, it will again reduce, but it will still be there. So once there is an attack, a successful hack happens, the year in which it happens, there's a significant impact, but there's a cascading effect too. which every organization is mindful of. Top attacked industries in 2020. Yeah, again, the good news or the bad news. The industries with which we operate, financial sectors and insurance companies, most of the attacks have happened here because bulk of the money travels here. Manufacturing, energy, retail, they're all there. But look at the last two. They're the most hot companies or organizations on the list of hackers. Yeah. Securing the information, the cost is going up again. Yeah. So companies heavily investing into the security controls. And that's where they're going to pay you and me a handsome professional charges for helping them in securing their own assets. So these are some of the reasons why you should consider cybersecurity as a profession, as a practice area, as an add-on to your existing practice. Yeah, cyber crimes are increasing. Very heavy demand. Now with the personal data protection bill, something similar to GDPR or SOX compliances or data protections elsewhere in the globe, personal data protection is going to open up a lot of avenues in India for professionals in India. Yeah. So do look out for the developments in the personal data protection space. A lot of avenues can come from there. Yeah. There are syndicates of crimes. There are full-time professionals only earning money out of cyber crimes. Yeah. Today, our cyber cell is not equipped to handle all the cases that are reported to them. They are running short of people. They have no infrastructure to handle that many cases. Yeah, so you can help them resolve their cases. That's an additional job that you can do to them. Yeah, there is a cyber armies present. China is the next threat. So after COVID, which is a bio war, we are now expecting that China could be coming up with as fancy as a cyber war also, we don't know. So there are talks which are happening. There's a dark web. There is a completely different underground world who's only preparing for cyber war. Yeah. And as we have already seen, maximum frauds have taken place into financial space. So they do happen regularly and frequently. So these are some of the statistics. Again, I told you we are people of databases. We base up, we back up our statements with data. So here, enough data points to substantiate the fact that there's enough opportunities in the cyberspace. Now, one more thing. What I have observed specifically in India, though I am catering to international clients, but the mindset is different. If you're talking to MNCs or foreign clients, they are proactive. Okay, for them, security is part of the protocol. Every year in their budget, they allocate some amount for spend on the security. On the contrary, Indian management is not so proactive when it comes to handling security. So once some incidences happens, once some compromises happens, or unless it is mandatory by the regulations, they'll not be willing to invest. And again, that opens up an opportunity for all of us. We need to educate, we need to spread awareness, carry these facts to them and say, before you get exposed, it would be prudent for you to invest. And why look at elsewhere? We are there to help you. We would guide you where to invest your money, how to secure your data, how to secure your assets, how to secure your infrastructure. So that's where you can start cross-selling. But for you to be able to do that, you should be first aware of how you will partner in this domain to protect the assets of your client, right? I'll skip this. And here we talk about the responsibility of banking, financial services, insurance companies, any company who is collecting, processing, storing, handling the data of the third parties. They have to ensure that the confidential, personally attached data of their customers are maintained in a confidential environment. So the CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, this requirement will come from GDPR, will come from Personal Data Protection Bill, and again, we can help our client there. Okay. Governance, as I said, there are regulatory requirements. Unless they're mandated, people are not willing to spend. But there are regulations, fortunately, in countries where you can help the clients comply with that. Right? Risk management, you already are aware of it. So look at this data privacy global landscape. Yeah. This is an eye-opener slide. If you see, violations of the European Union's GDPR can cost 4% of the global revenue. Not only revenue of European Union countries, but your global revenue. It's a big number. And it's a cost of non-compliance, which no company could manage to afford. Yeah. So this is a deterrent for an organization to take cybersecurity lightly. And that's an opportunity for us to partner with them. Again, if you see in India, Indian IT Act, Section 43A, Sensitive Data Protection Rules, upcoming Personal Data Protection Bill. In Singapore, PDPA is there. In US, these are the regulations which are there. So you can go to, you can kind of invest your time, explore these regulations and see how you can help your client in complying with these regulations. So cybersecurity, my friends, is more like a compliance practice. The way you do stat audits or in income tax audits or GST audits, these are similar sort of. So there are two ways you can partner with your client. One, you can help them in the digital transformation journey in upskilling or tightening the security on the cyberspace. And second, you can audit this from the compliance standpoint. So these are the two ways you can practice in this domain. Okay. So this is the role of cybersecurity I just explained. Yeah, this is a responsibility of the board of directors, and board is not aware of how to take care of this. Board is interested in developing the business. They are good at their business. You are good at helping them complying with the responsibility of cybersecurity. So I'm just going to skip all this. These are the way how we go in detail. So if time would have permitted, I would have helped you with the roadmap of this, but maybe at some different forum. Yeah. So what is your role here? You can be part of the strategic planning. You can define the scope of security. You can actually tell the client which are the networks, which are the servers, which are the sites, which are the applications that needs cybersecurity. Yeah, which are the data points. Then you can outline the security objectives and frameworks. There are frameworks available. Like you might have heard about COBIT framework, you have heard about COSO framework, you have heard about ISO framework. Similarly, there are frameworks available for cybersecurity. You need to be an expert in this framework to be able to guide your customers. Yeah, identify the areas where the vulnerabilities are there, where the threats can be exploited. Yeah, and then work very closely. And trust me, friends, this is not a one-time affair. These are long-term projects. If you are engaged from the strategic plan to the implementation of defining the risk levels, it will be keeping you busy for minimum 6 months to maximum 3 to 4 years. So that's an ongoing engagement with your client. You are earning regularly, and you are making you are actually becoming part of the client's team. You are an external internal consultant who is full-time helping your client 24/7, protecting their infrastructure. Auditing is just a small piece of it. If you really are keen in this domain, I would say pick up this domain. Be part of digital transformation journey rather than becoming cybersecurity auditor, because auditors come and go. Client will do it as a compliance activity. It is not going to be more rewarding. Although there's a dire need for people, cybersecurity audits are happening. But if you see the longer term perspective, if you want to be full time into this domain, then opt for the first type of assignment where you work very closely with your client. So I'm just keeping the slides there. Yeah, that's it. So I think I'm on time, and I will now open the forum for any questions. You can connect me with this email ID. I might take some time to revert, but I'll definitely revert. So you can note down my email ID. And back to you, Chami.
Thank you, sir. Your session was marvelous. We have certain questions coming up from the audience. So the first question is there any government body which regulates or provides regulation for info security or protection? Is there any dedicated government agency which does investigation of info security breaches or online frauds?
Yes, certainly there are regulatory bodies. There are different departments of the government who looks after and who floats these regulations, who monitors the cybersecurity. Unfortunately, there is no single authority as such in India, to be precise. Like, for example, RBI takes care of the financial services space, IRDA takes care of the insurance space, so on and so forth. So, obviously, there is a need for one common authority. There are different departments who comes up with different requirements at different point in time. So, like for example, I had few clients in the media space. So TRAI and TD sets are the governing bodies for that. Financial Intelligence Unit looks after the mutual fund industries and money laundering related frauds, and they carve out the requirements for protecting the data, so on and so forth. Similarly, Cyber Cell is there who looks after the cyber crimes and so on and so forth. So that way, there is no universal regulator that we have, or there's no universal rule. I was mentioning about GDPR and various other regulations. So these regulations comes from various different regulators.
Thank you, sir. The next question is RBI permitting blockchain payment in digital currency started from 1st December 22?
I'm not sure whether fully they have come up with this. I think RBI is still working on it. There are a lot of developments that are going to take place. So maybe conditional approval is what they have given, but it will take some time till the technology is getting tested, and then a full-fledged payments will go through the blockchain platform.
Okay, sir. That's all from the question side from our audiences. Thank you so much, sir. The way you took the session was highly commendable, and the knowledge and information shared by your good self will ensure and provide a more secure and overall safer information society for all of us. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
So my sincere...
Sorry, I just will address the participants. Thank you for your listening, and I'm sure that your Josh at 9 will still be at a very high level. It's just the trailer that we have given you on ABCD. It's just a beginning. A lot is there. There are special courses which our institute is organizing. Do subscribe to them. Learning is ongoing. The more you be into this domain, you will be better professional. So consider this as a start point and keep your interest ongoing in this domain. So thank you very much. Now, finally, over to you, Charmi.
Thank you, sir. My sincere thanks to you, all the speakers for today's session, and also the Secretariat's chairman, sir, and the entire team, our tech team, for all the technical arrangements. And continue to learn ABCD of technology. I, Charmi Shah, sign off for the day. Happy weekend. Thank you, sir.
Cheers. Bye-bye.